Good morning, Farah. Good
Hello,
morning.
Arijit. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Very good, mate. Very good. So we are in Calcutta at the moment.
Yeah, I'm in Calcutta.
So what? It must be what 8 o'clock in the morning.
No, 7:30.
Oh man. Okay.
So don't worry. I usually wake up at
You. How old are you? You are looking quite young.
I'm 40, man.
Oh man, you are looking as if you are 25, between 25 and 30.
Don't give me
Great.
that. Don't give me that. Don't give me that. I'm totally 40. Totally 40.
So good to see.
So look,
The
this
youth, the youthful 40. Mhm.
now it's full 40. Life starts at 40. The second
Yes. For
second
me,
way.
life starts at 65.
Oh yes, of course. Okay, so we can see that we have a attendee from Malaysia, but she's a very near and dear friend of ours. She was a speaker in our earlier, I think, earlier days, and she has been supporting the whole event like anything. She's a very
Right.
dear one.
Right.
Farah, if you tell me the chat box is on, if you tell me that you want to probably join the panel, just let me know. So Farah, for you, Farah is actually running a very beautiful fund out of Malaysia, trying to help a lot of tech ventures. So we decided to join hand together and do some good for the humanity and invest in a couple of startup initiatives. So they mainly invest in tech and tech-enabled ventures,
Right.
mainly as an early stage. So Farah, if you just say, okay, yeah, good morning, Farah. Thank you. So
Uh, She,
Pradeep,
she,
I'll tell you
she's on.
I'll tell you the mode. Is it audible? Can you?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I don't know. I think Sarah is on mute, potentially.
Yeah, for audience, we don't actually give any kind of option to speak, but yes, I can see attendees are
Sure,
joining one by one.
sure.
And the mode that we follow is like once we say that it's live, so it will be live in Facebook and five other more media. It will become total six, which includes IBM TV and Africa Digital and few others. I'll tell you the names. I mean, while I start the event, and we gather questions from all these social media and then shoot it to the respective speakers. So give me a few minutes, Pradeep, to set up things.
And screen sharing is there.
Oh
I have the
yes,
option.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
You have all the option. That's the reason we put it as a webinar mode, so that
Okay.
speakers can get the option to do the everything. I mean, they have all the
Okay.
options.
Lovely.
And
Thank you.
Q&A will be in the Q&A box. So if you wish, you can always check the Q&A box. You can click
Yes.
on that. You will
Yeah.
get the questions over there. And rest of the social media question, I'll be asking you.
Sure. Sure.
Okay, so you need to allow me to set up a couple of things.
Sure.
Is it fine if I don't put a tie on, or you want me to be in a tie?
Man, tie
This
is
is this is
old
gaming
school.
and yeah,
Old
yeah,
school.
old school. So that's the reason I skipped it.
I myself, I wear a t-shirt and all that most of
Yeah,
the time.
of course, of course. Yeah, Farah, it's a good Sunday. Thank you. Thank you, Farah. Okay, let me pull you up as a panelist, man. I mean, I don't want you to. Here you go, Farah. You can speak if you wish. You don't need to turn on your video if you are not comfortable, but yes, you are there. And you can always put your thoughts. So I'm expecting Todd from Canada. I'm expecting Ashish ji from India. Vineet from India, Ovi from India. We have a lot of speakers from India today. Pradeep, give me a few minutes to set things
Yeah,
up.
sure, sure.
I'm just expecting a couple of our teammates to join. And how is our VR AR association is doing?
Oh, very well, very well, very well.
Super. You know, we should have a we should have a training module. What is actual VR and what is HTML5 based, web based, simple navigation of 120-degree movement, so that people can differentiate between what is VR stuff and, of course, rest of the same. And tonight we have a startup award which we'll be doing. And tonight, Pradeep, if you are okay, please join us for the doctors panel. We'll be having amazing, super cool doctors who are
Sure.
actually.
What time is that?
It's Indian time around 6 o'clock.
Okay. I'll make a note.
Morning, Arijit and Mr. Pradeep.
Good
Hello.
morning, Farah.
Hi, Sarah, how are you?
Good. It's really nice weather here from Malaysia. A bit cool, just
So
nice.
whereabouts are you in Kuala Lumpur or Penang or Johor Bahru? Which part of Malaysia are you in?
You've been to Malaysia. I'm just 20 minutes from KL. 20.
Okay, so I actually before in the normal time before COVID, I used to be in KL practically once a month.
Wow. Okay. You have a business.
I have spoken at number of conferences in KL.
Okay.
I have also spoken at conferences in Penang. I've also been up to Johor Bahru.
Wow.
Yes,
Impressive. Impressive.
yes, I know, I know.
Please come
In
here.
KL, I used to love to stay at that what is that, Royal Chulan, in the Golden Triangle.
Yes, it's a nice place. Really, it's
It's a
like
very nice place. Yeah, yeah.
the design is
Oh,
so
I love KL for two things. One is that it's got a very good infrastructure, and it's half the price of Singapore. Singapore is so expensive.
exact.
And the other thing is that it is a very nice multicultural society.
Yes, yes, yes. We have many races here. Malay, Chinese, Indian, all
Yes,
mixed.
yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But yeah, after COVID, Mr. Pradeep and Arjit, please come to Malaysia.
I've been
Yeah,
there,
I know.
Farah. I've been there multiple times. And in fact, I actually lost one of my Android mobile in one of the disco cafe near Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur.
See. But
Yes,
today you're going to talk about the VR and AR. I'm
yes.
learning
Yes,
to distinguish between the two.
yeah.
But will you also talk about the spatial AI, the one that we're going to be wearing the Oculus?
Sure, we can. You see,
Yeah.
the only thing is challenge is I see what happens is that very often when I speak at about 2 to 3 conferences a week. The challenge is always to find out, what is the level of the audience,
Mhm.
because we typically have, people. Because when I speak at large number of conferences, people do not even, 70% people do not even know the difference between VR and AR.
Yep, yep.
So you have to tailor the content according to what it is.
Yes.
But talking about KL, sometimes I have landed in KL in the morning at about 7 o'clock, taken the train to Central, and then there's a hotel just outside Central, part of the Hyatt chain. So
Uh,
sit
Marie,
in the huh?
Lothian and there's Hilton as well. There's two.
Yeah, so and sit in the lobby and have my meetings over there, and
Yes.
then in the evening take a flight out. So
Oh,
I've done that so many times over there.
I see. So you just take the train from Central, the ERL straight to
Yes,
Galai.
yes, yes. From the airport to the Central, and go to the. If I'm there for a day, if I'm there for 2 3 days or so, then of course I take a cab from the airport to go to this thing. But otherwise, sometimes I'm there only for a day, so I just land in the morning, take the train and go to Central, just and go outside that hotel starting with A. I'm forgetting the name of the hotel, and just sit in the lobby and have my meetings, and then the evening, go back to the airport taking the train.
I see. The airline industry has been severely affected, actually.
Yes.
So, but I think MAS is still hanging around there because we
Yeah.
have the hope to shut down.
Yeah.
We're waiting for the COVID to recover. Yeah. How's the situation over in India, where you're at currently?
I live in Australia. I live in Sydney.
Yeah, I see. Okay.
So
Which part of
Sydney is pretty. Australia is pretty okay from that perspective, because in Melbourne we've had 40 days without any community transmission.
Mm,
In Sydney we've had about 30 days without any community transmission. So things are kind of, the interstate borders have opened up just about a week back. So there is progress happening in Australia.
lovely, lovely. The thing I like about Australia is the fruits and the nuts. There's always so fresh from there.
Yes, that is true. That is true. So have you been to Sydney?
Yeah, once I've been to Sydney and I also went to Perth. Perth is more laid back. Yeah.
And Perth, of course, is in the same time zone as KL, as Malaysia.
Okay. But that was quite a few years ago. Yeah.
But it is the same time zone, whereas the difference between Sydney and KL at the moment is 3 hours.
Exactly. So,
Yeah, so I can see that a couple of people are actually joining with us.
yeah.
Give us a few more moments because it's supposed to start at 8. So I'm expecting that people will join on time. I'm just pinging the rest of the speakers so that they can join us. And Farah, for your information, Pradeep ji is one of the finest human beings whom I know. And he has been into the technology field as well as, a very promising guy who is doing a lot of work with IEEE, ICICLE, Extrality, learning, SIG sectors, and of course he was like got 30 plus years of executive experience.
Really impressive.
Yeah.
Really impressive. I look forward to learn from both of you, especially, and everyone in the summit. Really. Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll be doing a bit of technical because, as you know, Farah, you have been attending for last couple of days.
Yeah.
So our attendees are a bit of matured one. So they ask very mature question and mainly from industry.
I see.
Yeah.
That would,
So you saw that that's happening from social media. It's happening from basically over here.
yes.
You
Yes.
expect that those kind of things will happen. And I can see Todd is also joining us. Hey Todd, I think it's connecting to your audio. Good morning, Todd. How are you doing?
Hey, not too bad. I apologize. I thought I had another half an hour.
You have time. You actually have time. I'm just asking people to probably log in so that there is no network glitch or any kind of issue that happens during the summit. Sometimes network acts funny. So for Pradeep, Todd is from Canada and they are running a VR hardware equipment company doing massive work mainly. So Todd, why don't you talk about your company, IOI Industries? So IOI Industries is one of the supporting partner of World Leader Summit as well. You can see their logo as a partner. And for Todd, Mr. Pradeep is the executive director of AR VR association, and it's a global association. Probably you can explore the synergy in between. I can see Ahmed joined from Egypt. Wow, Ahmed, this is really early morning. Thank you so much for joining us. I can see
So
Ankit from...
Todd, this is Pradeep from Sydney. Are you in Vancouver, or are you in Toronto, or are you in somewhere else in Canada?
We're actually in London, Ontario, Canada. So we're about halfway between Detroit in the US and Toronto. So we're about 2 hours from Toronto.
Oh, I've actually traveled from Detroit to Toronto to Windsor by the Friendship Bridge.
Oh, yeah. Yep. We're exactly halfway between the two.
Got it. So it's amazing, when you are in Detroit, it's like a decaying Roman Empire with graffiti on the walls and all kind of. And moment you cross the bridge and you come into Canada, you get those neat row of houses just like Australia.
Yeah, it's a very two different worlds. Detroit is Detroit is an auto city. There's a lot of manufacturing and chemical companies there, so it's definitely different.
Yeah, but the lakes over there are, in Detroit are or in Michigan are very nice. Of course, when you go into Canada, you see, once I landed in Toronto and the temperature was minus 8 degrees. Yeah, and I live in Sydney, and Sydney, it's very wonderful weather, and I thought minus 8 is very cool. And all the locals were jumping. They were saying, "Oh, what lovely weather!" Because they're used to minus 20 and minus 30.
Yeah. Oh, it gets a lot colder than that. We actually about 2 weeks ago we had 2 feet of snow. And that was only 2 feet. So we've had worse. I mean, we've had like 4 feet, sometimes 3 feet overnight. So it's that's not a big deal for us. We can deal with a couple of feet over 24 hours.
Yeah. And that place called Mississauga. Mississauga is very popular with the Indians over there.
Yeah, even London. We have a very large Indian population in London as well. We're kind of a huge melting pot over here, which is, I think that's to our advantage because we all, we all live in the same world. So why can't we live in the same country? So it's it's very interesting. The cultures and especially in Toronto where they have Little Italy and they have Little Greek town, and then it's kind of like almost like Singapore where they have kind of there's the Indian group, and then I think there's the is it Chinese? I'm not sure. There's like 3 different kind of towns within the city itself.
So I find that Australia and Canada are quite similar economies, apart from the fact that Australia has got a population of 25 million and Canada has got a population of 35 million. But very strong. Last year I was in Vancouver, and from Vancouver I went to Calgary, and then to Edmonton. And they are just like Western Australia, oil and resources and all that kind of.
The oil sands,
Okay, I think we are all set to start within the next 10 minutes. I can see one of my teammates is already there, so I'm just pulling her up as a panelist. Shweta, thank you for joining early in the morning. I'm making you a co-host. Here you go. I can see another teammate also joined. Thank you so much. Okay, so we'll be going live within 2
Sure.
to 3 minutes. Okay,
Yep.
just be ready. The format is pretty simple. Starting from Pradeep, then Todd, then Ashish. It might happen that I'll be put myself mute for a couple of minutes because I have to manage the speakers as well. And of course, pulling up questions from other media. Ankit, if you have any questions, and for others, rest of the others, if you have any questions, just use the type box, so that question answer box, so that we are good to go. So we are going live, guys. We have good time, probably. Okay. One, two, three. We are going live in Facebook. Todd, is there any specific thing you want me to address, like anything you want me to put in?
No, it's fine. What I'll do is I've got kind of notes in the background, and I'll kind of introduce the company and then kind of start talking a little bit about the industry and then the ecosystem around it. And then we can pause at any time for questions.
Okay. One, two, three, go. Live.
Hello, everybody. This is Pradeep from Sydney in Australia.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to World Leader Summit, and we are doing this summit for the last couple of days. We started on 7th of December 2020 with a theme of banking, fintech, and blockchain. We had Hazel from Australia. She was amazing, and then the great, amazing super speakers like Kaiser from Dubai, then Eric from China, Mr. Mohammed from Kuwait, Terry from Sweden, Isabella from Spain, and the second half we had Ritesh from UK, Smarajit from India, Dr. Wendy from USA, Michelle from UK, Martin from US. Second day, 8th of December, we had Health, Ayurveda, and MedTech. We had Hazel from Australia, Prashun from US, Corey Vinilepa from India, Anuj from India, Dr. Rudra from India, Miguel from Spain, Yuan from Spain, Paramita from US, Sir Timothy from US, Dr. Dian from US. 9th of December, we had a great day with women entrepreneurs and social impact venture founders. The day started by Chandra from Finland. Then we had Maya from US, Mr. Yosef from India, Farah from Malaysia, Nofar from Israel. Second half we had Dr. Tina from UK, Concetta from Belgium, Bianca from Romania, Vash from Scotland, Malamma from India, Shubhranshu from India, Curtin from Germany, Sadia from Canada. December 10th was a day of deep tech, AI, cybersecurity, and robotics, started by Elena from US, Dr. Amit from Singapore, and Toby from Singapore, Ivan from Montenegro, Hamid from Oman, Nisrain from Lebanon, Enrico from Albania, Piyush from India, Rahul from India, Fernando from Brazil. December 11th, we had EdTech, Education and Leadership, started by Mr. Pradeep from India, Megan Lee from China, Mariana from China, Ilke from Turkey, Evgenia from Russia, Artem from Russia, Aysi from Turkey, and we had a local language conversation on that day. Then the second half started by Arjun from Netherlands, Anita from Finland, Rob from Netherlands, Fabrics from Luxembourg, Czech Keita from France, Stephen from US, Fabric Testa from Luxembourg. December 12th, started by Craig Johnston. That was an amazing day. Sports and media entertainment. Craig is a celebrity football player, played in FIFA. He's from Australia. Then Hoppo, the celebrity guy from Australia. Siddharth from India. Sanjeev from Australia. Ankita from India. Tendin Vanchuk from Bhutan. And the second half started by Ujjwal from India, Chandrima, India, Sanjay Rai from India, Josvan from Yuan from Spain, Remco from Netherlands, Ernesto from Italy. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we have an exciting day to start with one of the finest technology close to my heart. I've been working in this industry for quite a long time. Started my life with gaming and animation in 1998. Started VR programming with Vermal, virtual reality markup language in 2006. On those days, it used to call helmet system. On those days, it was different cave systems and boom tube concept. But now we have latest generation technologies where you can have AR glasses, touchscreen, projector usage inside your smartphone, VR glasses, XR devices, and gesture control rings, gesture control various belts. So many things are happening in across the world. And we have experts panel, great speakers who are with us. And let me introduce you our first speaker, Mr. Pradeep Khanna. Pradeep is the Executive Director of Asia Pacific Sydney Chapter, President and Global Co-Chair Education for Global Virtual Reality Augmented Reality Association. Pradeep is also founding member of IEEE, ICICLE, X-Reality for Learning and Performance Augmentation, SIG, and CEO of Global Mindset. He has got 30 plus years of executive experience and has been a leader for IBM Australia and New Zealand, leveraging India, China, Philippines, Vietnam, Egypt, Romania, Brazil, and Argentina. A globetrotter. Welcome to World Leader Summit.
Thank you very much, Arijit. I am delighted to be here today and speaking at the World Leader Summit 2020. And to everybody else, this is Pradeep from Sydney. In Australia, it is around 1:30 p.m. in the afternoon with the lovely weather outside, which is neither too cold, neither too warm. And I want the same weather to be there with all of you. And I want the same feeling with all of you.
Pradeep, you're muted. Pradeep, you got muted somehow.
And I'm going to be talking today on, has the tipping point come for immersive technologies, which is VR, AR, XR, RR, or whatever else you may want to think or talk about. These technologies have been around for the last more than 25 plus years. And one of the challenges of emerging technologies is that if you are too early, then you get tired, you run out of resources. And if you are too late, you miss the opportunity. So are we there at that tipping point for this particular emerging technology? So let me share my screen and let me walk you through my PowerPoint, as well as let me take it to the full screen mode. So who am I? Arijit has already introduced you to me, but let me kind of give you, as Arijit mentioned, in my earlier corporate life, I was global delivery leader for IBM Australia and New Zealand, and built up a $3 billion business leveraging India, China, Philippines, Vietnam, Egypt, Romania, Argentina, Brazil. But today I'm very heavily immersed into immersive technologies like virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality, and I have a number of roles. One is that I'm Executive Director, Asia Pacific, as well as Sydney President and Global Co-Chair for the world's largest VR AR focused association in the world, We have 70 plus chapters worldwide. We have 4,400 plus entities registered with us, as well as a community of tens and thousands of people. When we had a global summit in the month of June, we had 12,000 plus people attending, and likewise for the next summit in October. We are building a huge global community focused on VR, AR, and getting together the best minds. My second role is with IEEE, with Immersive Learning Group, where we are initiating discussions about open source and proprietary technology. We are also looking at doing environmental scans and talking about standards. My third role is with Global Mindset, where we are working to create a marketplace. My fourth role is with IIT Delhi, where I am the convener for the IIT Delhi Alumni Association for Emerging Technologies, as well as for global engagement. My fifth role is that I'm an adjunct professor with a number of places in Australia, Singapore, and India. And my sixth role is I'm an advisory board member in Australia, Singapore, and India. So this is who am I. And I want to quickly walk through. I know that I may be talking to an audience which is already quite knowledgeable about VR, AR, but my experience tells me that when I speak at conferences all over the world, 70% of the people do not even understand the difference between VR and AR. So let me just give you a quick 2-minute spiel, and also without any technical jargon on layman's language. Let's say I was sitting with Todd in Canada, or I was sitting with Arajit in Kolkata, and we were sitting face to face. We would have been real people sitting on real objects. That was the real world. But on the other hand, if I wanted an experience of landing on Mars, can I get that physically? No, I can't, unless I'm Elon Musk, but I'm not Elon Musk. So what do? We create a digital environment, and we trick the brain into thinking that we are in a 3D environment, and we create that artificial experience, and that is called virtual reality. Now, as we move from the real world to the virtual world, in between, if we keep adding digital objects, we come to different stages in between. Stage one is when you add digital objects to the real world. We call that augmented reality. Augment means adding. An example of this is if you were to go to shopping in IKEA, and if you wanted to buy a table. So if you were to scan the QR code of the catalog, and you would get a digital image of the table while you are in the real world. And then you can decide whether you want to buy a round table, square table, brown table, black table, and so on and so forth. Now, that is augmented reality. Now, moving on forward, I want you to kind of walk and see a video, an MIT video, which is of 2016, which explains, how virtual reality works. Let me go back and share that video with you. Let me. slide that we are having. Yeah, we're back.
Just a small input, there is no sound in your video.
So, guys, I am back. Let me put off this YouTube video and get back to you. So now getting back to my screen, and there is a reason that I showed this video to all of you, in spite of the fact that a lot of you already know about how VR works. And I'll come to this reason further down in my presentation. Now back to screen share. So where are we in terms of VR, AR, in terms of take up by different industries? The number one industry having the highest level of take up is gaming and entertainment. Number two is education and training is much ahead of education. Number three is health. Number four is real estate, construction, architecture. Then you got aeronautical, automobile, defense, mining, travel, tourism, and so many others. Functionally, marketing, training, and field operations have had the highest traction in VR, AR. Let's have just a quick look at the ecosystem. The ecosystem consists of hardware, which is, head-mounted devices for VR by people like Oculus, HTC, or for AR for people like Microsoft, etc., laptops, desktops, etc., etc. You got the software, you got rendering engines like Unity, Unreal, you got apps and content. So, what is the current state of play of immersive technologies? Point number one, the taxonomies are still emerging. And what that means is that if I say extended reality, mixed reality, augmented reality, what I say and what you may understand may be different things. Number two is standards are still emerging. So when Oculus doesn't talk to, other systems and other hardware, so we are still a long way off in getting standards across and getting the introduction of open source technologies and getting them to blend with proprietary technologies. We have a concentrated hardware ecosystem where the few global peoples have significant market share of the hardware. And we already mentioned a couple of companies which are in this particular phase. But when you look at content, it's a very different story altogether. You got thousands and thousands of companies. Then most of them are startups with a typical profile of one person, 5 people, and going up to maybe 25, 35. That's a typical profile of a content startup in the VR, AR ecosystem. Yes, I've met companies which have got, 100, 200, 300 headcount, but they tend to be outliers and there are very few in between. And just to give you a perspective in terms of number of companies, Australia has 1,500 plus companies, India has 2,500 plus companies, China has 3,500 plus companies, South Korea has 1,000 plus companies. So that's a large number of startups and companies operating in an emerging technology space. And what is the profile of the promoters of these startups? 60% of them are coming from a technology perspective, 20% from creative or film production, and 20% from somewhere else. Now, what happens in this demand and supply disconnect? Because from the demand perspective, people are still struggling to understand what to do about VR, AR, and immersive technologies. Where do you start and where do you end? From the supply side, from these content companies, nobody knows them outside the niche that they are operating in. Nobody has any idea as to who are the good, bad, and ugly. And a lot of time, the focus is on technology solution or the technology itself. People still talk in terms of use cases rather than how do we take it from a use case to a business case. People talk in terms of, creating a VR, AR, XR solution. Little realizing that nobody is really concerned about having a VR, AR solution per se. They are looking for getting their life a bit easier, which in the other words means from a business perspective, they are looking at, is their business problem getting solved? Or from a consumer perspective, are they getting a better experience? I hear about, maybe people talking about 6 degrees of freedom and so on and so forth. But when you look at it from a business or a consumer perspective, are they really bothered about 6 degrees of freedom? No, they are not. So this is where I wanted to show you the MIT video. That this MIT video is of 2016. And we are now in 2020 and coming to the beginning of 2021. And still the demand side is struggling to understand what is VR, AR, how do I use it? I am invited to speak at conferences all over the world. In 2019, I was invited to speak at 27 international conferences, right from San Francisco, Vancouver, Seoul, Auckland, everywhere else. When I speak at these conferences, I find 70% people do not even understand the difference between AR and VR. So at one point in time, we are seeing the technologies which have been around for the last 25 plus years are still in a state where the general consumer or business is still struggling to understand what to do. On the supply side, you got these startups which nobody seems to know outside the niche they're operating. So what is the future? Is the future about what we call as LBE, location based entertainment? What is location based entertainment is nothing but at a place you got all the hardware installed, you go there for an experience, whether it is gaming or for some other experience, and that becomes location based experience. In one of my conference where I was speaking, I was in Seoul in South Korea. In the evening, I was going down to the shopping mall and I found this is the actual photograph of a shop that I took over there. This shop had a VR installed, VR hardware installed. You could go inside and you could design your own car, choose the kind of bells and whistles that you want. And after that, you could walk out. If you wanted, you could order a car. If you didn't want, you could just have the experience and walk out. So is this going to be the future? Smart glasses. This is what Qualcomm projects, that at a point in time, maybe 10 to 15 years down the road, these smart glasses will be replacing our mobile phones. Yes, we know that Google had launched smart glasses in 2016 and it failed miserably as a consumer device. This has been relaunched in 2018 as a business enterprise and seems to be doing much better. But the question is this the future in terms of what 10 to 15 years down the road that we will be wearing smart glasses instead of mobiles? Social and collaborative immersion. The main thing about VR AR is the engagement and the immersion that you get in these technologies. So will it be that, in the future, we'll all be collaborating and, talking to each other in a VR environment? Is this the future? Or is it going to be about multi-sensory experiences? At the moment, the main focus is more on the visual, that is on seeing or on, hearing. But what about touch, smell, taste? The MIT video in 2016 has also talked about that. And there are companies who are doing work on this. There are companies, that they have created devices where you put on your mouth and you've got 6 different cartridges, just like you have printer cartridges, which have different smells and taste kind of, cartridges. But can you go around having one head-mounted device for the eyes, another device for your taste, and another one maybe for smell, and so on and so forth? Is this the future? This particular is the actual photograph when I was at the University of San Diego in California. I went to the VR AR lab and I put on this smart glove, and in the VR environment, I had a head-mounted device. When I saw a piano and I touched it with a smart glass, I felt a sensation. This area is very commonly known as haptics in terms of touch. There is a lot of work which is happening in terms of measuring the actual force when you touch any particular object. So is this an indication of what the future is? Or more importantly, how are different emerging technologies blending with each other? Now, I've always believed that, when different emerging technologies fuse with each other, the impact is significantly higher as compared to one single technology. There are so many data points which are being collected in an immersive technology environment in terms of eye tracking, head tracking, hand tracking, and so on and so forth. How do we blend different emerging technologies to enhance the experience that we are getting? Is this the future? So at one end, we saw that we are still, despite being around for 25 plus years, these technologies still have to really attract the attention of the mainstream. On the other hand, we are seeing all these futuristic, projections in terms of where the world is heading to. So where are we now at this particular point in time? And are we at the tipping point? This is really the core question, that at the moment, that are we at the tipping point? And when we look at the future, is it going to be VR? Is it going to be AR? Is it going to be consumer? Is it going to be enterprise? Where are we in the journey? So here is the game changer. The game changer is really 5G. 5G, which stands for fifth generation. And let me kind of walk you. The first generation was 1G, when we could talk through our mobile phone. Now 5G all relates to mobile phones. 2G was when you could send an SMS through your mobile phone. 3G was when you could connect internet through a mobile phone. 4G was when you could do all these things faster. And that's where we are in different parts of the world. 5G is the game changer where we are heading towards. Countries like South Korea and USA have already rolled out 5G, and most of the countries of the world at the moment are in the process of rolling out 5G. The difference in terms of 5G and what the current listing is absolutely fabulous. 5G really gets the content and the audience closer. It enables much more latency, about 120 times layer. It gets much faster network speeds. It gets more devices connected at the same time. It also enables a lot of functionality of the head-mounted device to go to the cloud, and thereby enabling a thinner head-mounted device. There have been a whole lot of studies which show astronomical growth of the market when 5G comes in. And this particular example, which you got in your slide, is just one particular industry, entertainment, but the impact is all across. The impact is equally big for AR as for VR. The impact is equally big for consumer as well as for business. So when I look at where we are in terms of 5G rollout all across the world, see, 5G will take about 7 years to come to full functionality. Where we are in 5G rollout today, the impact on VR AR is small. But we see that the impact of 5G becoming at a medium level in about 2 to 3 years' time, and then significantly enhancing. And what that means is that the roadmap for VR AR is now a 7-year roadmap, where we now see the tipping point happening in about 2 to 3 years' time, when the 5G impact has a medium level impact on VR AR, and then leading to a high level impact. We are currently at that phase where the impact is small. But there's another factor at play. Of course, 5G is a game changer, but the other is telecom companies itself. Telecom companies are rolling out 5G at the infrastructure level, but more importantly, they're also rolling out content to the last mile that they control. What they are looking at doing is offering on a SaaS model content. That means you pay a small price and you get access to the content. And in some countries, like what happens in the case of smartphones, like in Australia, for example, I bundle up my smartphone with the data plan that I've got, and I pay for the smartphone over next 2 to 3 years. That is the life of the plan. So you can imagine similar kind of services being rolled out by telecom companies. And this is not something which is in the future, but already happening. We are also noticing that telecom companies are developing in-house capability for VR, AR, or going into M&A for acquiring, immersive tech capability. We are going to see telecom companies as major players in the VR, AR business, And also, when they start offering content to the last mile, just imagine what happens to take up VR, AR, and the mainstream. So, what is the bottom line? That we have a 7 years roadmap. We see a tipping point happening in 2 to 3 years and high growth after that, linked with 5G. But it is important to understand that the impact of 5G at the moment is still small. And what that means is that getting revenue or business is going to be still tough in the next 2 to 3 years before we head to the tipping point. And we need to focus more on brand building at this particular point in time and to plan for our strategies for 2 to 3 years down the road. Also, keeping in mind that the large number of companies which are already operating in this environment. And what that also means is that if you are successful, then you'll have enough competitors. So you'll have to be innovative and nimble all the time further. But from a market perspective, there is a tremendous change which is likely to come through in the next couple of years. And in closing off, I want to show you something, another video, which you will see is currently happening. And let me stop the stream here and get the second video in play. So, folks, as you have seen, this is happening now. And let me clarify, I do not work for Microsoft and I do not have any commercial interest in this particular area insofar as Microsoft is concerned. But this was just to give you a contrast between when we looked at the MIT video of 2016, when we look at what is the current state of play of the market, and also where we are actually heading to just reinforce that yes, on the 7-year roadmap, we are heading towards a tipping point in the next 2 to 3 years. And it's no longer a question of whether it's going to happen or not. It's a question of a here and there, mixed reality, augmented reality, virtual reality are here. Thank you very much. And please feel free to ask me any question that you want. I am so deeply immersed into it that I can talk for days on together, but I'm cognizant of the time that the conference is on for. So back to you, Arjit, and to audience.
Thank you so much for the lovely presentation, and it was really enlightening that you're sharing so many of data. But before we move to our next speaker and question and answer, could you please look at the camera for 2 minutes so that I can take a snap of yours?
Yep.
1, 2, 3. Give me a second. Let me test. I hope it was fine. Okay, so we have 5-6 questions from social media, but before we ask this, we'll keep it to the end. We are running around 5 minutes late, so I'll ask Mr. Todd to turn on his camera and mic, please. Todd, are you there with us?
Yeah, I'm here. Unfortunately, I have some camera difficulties. My computer's not picking up the camera this evening, so I'm going to have to just go blind here. I apologize for that. I'm just looking, can I share my presentation?
Yeah, but before that, let me at least introduce you to the world.
Oh, sure.
So Todd Strait is from Canada, and he is helping companies to implement and manage technologies across all aspects of business in full support of their objectives. He has been working in London, Ontario, and of course, he has been working in various different latest generation technology. He's an innovative person and representing IOI Industries with beautiful hardware devices that they have, including a couple of cameras and few of the graphic cards. And of course, those are mainly for studios for making amazing, super cool 3D experience in virtual reality. When we talk about virtual reality, as Mr. Pradeep was sharing with us, VR, AR, XR, 3 different terms with 3 different kind of work and 3 different kind of implementation. As per my understanding, if we look at the world now, we have few bit of challenges. We'll probably discuss all these during our question and answer session. But Todd, over to you. The session is yours. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Arijit, and thank you to you and your team for putting on this amazing event. I'm very pleased to be a part of the World Leader Summit 2020. I'm just going to, I think you have to make me co-host so I can share my presentation.
You can always share, but I can make you co-host as well. That's not a problem. But as a panelist, you are entitled to share your screen.
I see it. Yep. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just not used to being a panelist as opposed to a... Okay, I'm just sharing my computer sound now. So again, thank you, Arijit and your team, and thank you to everyone who's coming to the session today. My name is Todd Strait. I'm a regional manager for IO Industries. I'm going to talk about volumetric capture techniques and applications.
Yeah.
And
good morning. Good morning.
It's going to be.
So we are.
I think you're going to need to mute yourself, Arijit.
20 minutes.
you're going to see as part of as I go through this, you're going to see some crossovers. You're going to see some common mentions between what Mr. Pradeep spoke about and kind of what I speak about. Specifically, companies like Microsoft, you'll see come up in my presentation as well. And I'll kind of take it from a little bit of a different perspective, and I'll talk about kind of where we're positioned in kind of the overall ecosystem, and talk about the ecosystem as well. My presentation is quite long, so I'm welcome to share this with anyone after the event if they want to reach out to me. Arijit can help people. My contact information is on the screen, but he can also help people get in touch with me to go into more detail. Again, because there's a lot of information in a short period of time to share. So in this presentation, I'm going to talk a little bit about IO Industries, just give you a brief overview so you can kind of see where we came from. I'm going to talk about volumetric capture, kind of specifically what it is, where it's being used, how it's created, and then also kind of how we can help and where we fit in. IO Industries established in 1991. Initially, we developed PC-based image capture and processing software. Our target markets were medical, scientific, defense related. We then created our DVRs, so again, capable of recording uncompressed video from multiple cameras. So we were really camera agnostic. We've always tried to remain agnostic, that our technology can apply in many different ways and not for specific applications. Excuse me. In 2011, we actually started developing a series of high-speed, high-resolution video cameras, and that's kind of where we started getting pulled into the worlds of Microsoft and ADI, the people making volumetric content, so the people making the holograms and whatnot, and which ultimately led us, many years later, to create a product specifically designed, a volumetric camera, a volumetric capture camera, allowing for potentially hundreds of cameras to be synchronized, all tied together over a standard network infrastructure. So it's a very interesting story where we've gone from a machine vision, computer vision background and been pulled over into this world because of the types of systems and the types of flexibility in our hardware. And we're very pleased to be kind of upfront of the pack in terms of the hardware we're producing at the moment, and kind of leading the charge into these types of activities. 21 employees. We usually fluctuate kind of 21 to 23 employees. We do a lot of, we bring a lot of students through and whatnot. We do our own in-house design and manufacturing, so electrical, mechanical, firmware development, PC software development, electronic test and file assembly, quality assurance, and technical support. So there's some things we do have manufactured, but the majority of the work is done in-house in our facility here in London, Ontario. So what is volumetric capture? So volumetric capture is a technique for generating truly lifelike three-dimensional avatars of human performers, recording every nuance of their expressions, movements, motions, and the full performance they're bringing to the stage. The result is a vivid, engaging virtual copy of the performer, observable from any point of view throughout the entire performance, and ideal for use in immersive AR, VR, experiences through either 2D or 3D display technologies. In many cases, the most popular technology used today to view these experiences is either a headset or even cell phones. Current day cell phones are one of the most popular devices available to the majority of the population. It's sometimes still difficult to explain what volumetric capture is. So we have a 1-minute video that we typically use. It was created a couple of years ago, but it's still a very good way to show what this technology looks like.
106 cameras, 10 gigabytes per second of raw data, and a whole lot of studio lights. This is how you make a hologram. Here at Microsoft's Mixed Reality Capture Studio, they're making volumetric 3D content to watch in virtual reality or augmented reality on the HoloLens. These cameras film the object or person standing inside an 8-foot circle, with 4 microphones pointing down to record audio. Half of the cameras are infrared to capture details of shape and texture, while the other half are RGB. Just like a regular film set, the director shouts action and the capture process begins. Footage is then reconstructed into a mesh so post-production studios can change the lighting, manipulate colors, and integrate the hologram or 3D model into their content. Even though the system captures data at 10 gigabytes a second, the finished mesh is compressed to 10 megabits per second so it's manageable and can be streamed more easily.
That was just one example or potential way that this technology can be deployed. This particular example utilizes the Microsoft mixed reality capture technique, but there are many other companies that we work with that are doing this in different ways. So there are a lot of different techniques to produce volumetric video using volumetric capture. It's a similar concept to photogrammetry, which is a technique that has been used for static capture of objects for a very long time, but with the added dimension of motion. In essence, it is a sequence of these still captures over time. It's often called, also called videogrammetry or 4D video. Generally, volumetric capture can be broken down into two categories. Essentially, these are referred to as either real-time volumetric capture or post-processed volumetric. During this presentation, we'll be mostly focusing on the post-processed method. There is a lot of interest around the real-time method and a lot of potential applications. One of the main ones is for low latency interactive conversations taking place to, or quote, holoportation, unquote. This method requires a lot of processing and is very bandwidth intensive with the amount of information that is being shared. Most importantly, it is very latency driven. As the latency increases, the interactions between the subjects involved start to suffer adversely, making it more and more seem like you are not interacting with a real person. In a lot of cases, we are seeing volumetric capture being done in the post-processed approach. This allows people to deliver the experience, share it, and replay it. And then people can experience it in different ways over time. This allows for more time to do the processing, allowing for the use of more advanced algorithms and refinements before you have to deliver the final content. A lot of the use cases we've seen to date have been in immersive entertainment. We've also seen use cases involving marketing campaigns in more recent times. In this slide, you can see some music videos that were created, which is a great way for artists to provide an immersive interaction for their fans, especially in the more recent times when live performances have not been possible. At the same time, the number of location-based experiences, which you can see at the bottom of the slide, have also been increasing in numbers. AT&T Stadium in the US with the Dallas Cowboys would require you to go to this location, use a specific type of phone, to experience this immersive effect of having the players burst out of the roof of the stadium. This ultimately drove people to physically go to the stadium and experience this for themselves. Another event was done in Ireland at the Open Championship. This is a very interesting one where they captured all of the pro golfers as they performed their swing. They then used the volumetric capture asset as a virtual hologram in the commentary periods between watching the game. At this point, the question has to be asked is, how do you do all of this? How is this created? There is one thing that is in common amongst all the various techniques, which is that they use an array of synchronized video cameras. These single viewpoint cameras positioned in many different places, capturing this performer or subject from all different angles. The data is what then gets excuse me, processed into three-dimensional hologram in the end. Depending on the technology of the cameras as well as the processing workflow, these cameras can be individually spaced or they can be arranged in stereo pairs, but ultimately they are ensuring that there is coverage of the capture volume from all perspectives. One of the big questions that we are commonly asked is how many cameras? There are a lot of different factors that affect this, such as the overall complexity of the system, like the capture volume, its size, itself, budget, and a number of other factors. Another one being is whether there is going to be a lot of occlusions where the images have been blocked, such as having your hand in front of your face. This is one of the factors that having more cameras is really going to make a big difference. In general, we are not seeing fewer than 12 cameras being used, which is typically the bottom level for being able to do a full reconstruction. And typically 12 cameras are only used in cases where it's 180-degree capture, or it's a smaller surface area or a smaller volume, like a facial capture for video gaming. Some of the higher end systems that we've helped deploy have had over 100 cameras, but commonly we're seeing between 30 and 60 cameras to provide a decent 360 full body coverage. Generally, the cameras are producing a video rate footage of 30 to 60 frames a second, but for faster motion captures such as sports analysis or dancing, higher frame rate captures have been performed. This leads to greater processing requirements due to having to process more frames, but it can produce a really interesting dramatic effect with a combination of slow motion and volumetric capture. At a minimum, the cameras that are used are producing color video. We call them RGB type cameras, and they are capturing color and texture details as we would observe them with our eyes from many different points of view. There are some more advanced capture techniques called multimodal approaches, where they're using a patterned infrared light, which will be projected onto the scene. This was done originally with the Microsoft Kinect. You can see the image where the dots are being projected on the subject below. Ultimately, there are lots of different ways to do the shape computation. You can do it with the RGB data, which in some cases is sufficient, but in other cases, there's going to be some benefits from using a different technique that maybe don't show up the RGB technique, and that don't show up in the RGB technique, and which is why combining these two is something that is being done in a few different places today. Ultimately, the processing stage is where the independent groups that are producing the workflows are putting their own unique efforts into the equation. They are using lots of different computer vision algorithms, techniques that have been around for years, but they're combining them together and performing them in a way that is best optimized for volumetric video delivery. They are combining these approaches to create new novel reconstruction methods. In the end, it is typically delivering either point clouds or polygon meshes. Point clouds are densely packed, three-dimensional, colorized array of points. These points, as you can see in the images in the slide, are independently positioned in space. They are like a three-dimensional pixel called a voxel. When this group of dots is viewed from a distance, it appears to be a solid surface. The other method that is commonly used is where the point cloud is resolved into polygon meshes. Again, there are a few different ways of arriving at the point of having polygon meshes, where point cloud is just one approach. A polygon mesh gives you this solid object represented by a large number of vertexes of triangles. The greater the number or density of the vertexes gives you a greater ability to represent fine shape details. In effect, this can be thought of as a sealed surface, and on top of this layer of texture, which is really where you can really make use of some of the advanced delivery methods that you see volumetric capture being used in. Delivery methods such as game engines, because they are very much tied to using the mesh and texture type approaches. Excuse me. There are still some challenges associated with this technology, which is where the research and development is ongoing to help refine the technology. There are still some materials that are very difficult to capture, thus requiring a lot of different approaches to solve those types of issues. Approaches not just to do with the camera technology or processing, but sometimes it's as basic as having special sprays that you can apply to reflective surfaces to kind of dull the surface when you're doing a capture. There is an art to producing the best possible capture in order for the workflow to be able to render it into the proper 3D result. Finally, detailed clothing like lace, fine patterns, wispy hair, reflective or transparent materials, undefined surfaces such as water or smoke or fog can be very difficult to capture as well. Now I want to spend some time and talk a bit about the ecosystem. Specifically regarding who is out there, who is providing full solutions or parts of the overall volumetric capture solution. When we talk about people producing complete systems, these are the people that you could approach and they would be able to tell you exactly what you need to stand up an entire studio. Some of the leaders in this field include Microsoft, as mentioned previously, 8i, 4D Views, EverCoast, Mantis Vision, and many others. These people are putting together complete packages and helping to architect solutions depending on the types of designs that you need for a studio. This would be great references to speak with regarding setting up a solution. If you step back from this and want to produce something on your own and approach it from more of a piece-by-piece approach, there are a few companies that are doing just the software portion. They will let you go out and procure your own cameras and decide what you want for your own studio in terms of setup, lighting, structure, power, etc. And they will just process the imagery. Two such companies are ModTech Labs and Volograms. Both are relatively newer companies that have a different approach in regards to how they're set up, that they are all cloud-based processing as opposed to having an on-site render farm. It is a pretty innovative approach consisting of different pricing models with a focus on democratizing volumetric video content creation and making it easier to access for people. It might not have the same top-end image quality and results that some of the larger studios are able to produce, but it's definitely a way of getting more people involved in using a technology and has had a very promising results from what we've seen thus far. There are also a few tools more used for photogrammetry of still object cameras such as Agassiz and reality capture. With some scripting and some add-ons, you are able to use these for volumetric capture and motion as well. Some of the workflow tools that are specific to volumetric video and 3D environment space, Arcturus has come out as a good leader in producing tools that will allow you to manipulate volumetric video content and then refine it further before it is ultimately delivered. Another company that has come up recently is Sense of Space and their SenseXR Studio. This can be thought of as a very straightforward nonlinear editor style interface for volumetric content. You can easily bring in multiple volumetric files, produce a timeline with them, and even produce interactions so that you can have one timeline linked to another after such as when a user gets closer to the object with their device. This can help really bring a more polished delivery of volumetric content in a quicker way. As far as some of the really detailed editing and improvements to the volumetric video, that's where people are bringing these assets into programs like Houdini or Maya. And doing some sorts of refinements that you would do with other types of 3D modeling, even if it's static creations or something like that. So where do you put the data once you've got it, once you've created these holograms? Once you have the models of these assets, it's a matter of delivering them in a specific format to some sort of a viewer. We're hearing a lot of people that are using game engines for this, which are already in place presently in the market and defined for use with these textured meshes. So now bringing a volumetric capture mixed reality asset into it makes complete sense. Unity and Unreal are two very popular engines that are supportive of volumetric capture assets. Also, Eighth Wall are doing something really interesting where their development platform allows you to create viewports directly within web pages to allow for interaction with volumetric content. This enables people to engage with the content without the need of downloading a specific app. They can just access it directly from the browser. Little Star is a content delivery network focused on AR, VR content delivery with a full workflow for that. They can be a good resource to look at as well. If you're just looking to make use of volumetric content or have volumetric content produced for you, then this is where a number of studios exist around the world, specifically set up to provide this service. These studios allow you to use their services like you would any other production studio that they are specifically focused on volumetric capture. A number of companies on the list are studios that we've put together with our cameras, which we have been very pleased to have been a part of, such as Metastage, Dimension, Jump Studio, and several others. Avatar Dimension is actually one that just opened up on the East Coast of the US. It just depends on whether you're looking for a couple of different interactions and producing content, then working with these studios can be a lot easier than setting up your own studio. There are also some companies that are doing more on the research side or just having internal development stages, companies such as Google, Canon in Japan, Sony Innovation Studios, as well as some academic research institutions such as Georgia State University, Max Planck Institute, and INRIA. Again, these groups are really pushing forward the technology in a lot of ways and coming from an academic point as well as working with the research universities. As you can see here, Google had a very interesting paper last year released about what they call the Relightables project. It was really just ways of capturing and remodeling the light being produced in a scene and making a way that it can be best represented in a new environment. It was a really novel approach documented in the paper talking about the different modalities. It was also RGB and IR combined approach. In general, our experience, because we've had a chance to work with a large number of industry leaders in both the AR and VR market, as well as many other markets, has given us a lot of specialized imaging and computer vision knowledge. This in turn enables us to help other people that are also coming into this space. We want to be able to be a resource to help people who needs it in order to ensure that they have what they need to make accurate decisions in regards to their specific needs versus the options available in the market. We welcome the chance to help however we can, including referrals to different workflow partners that we work with, including Microsoft Mixed Reality, 8i, FX Gear, Volograms, Arcturus, and any of the other ones mentioned here, and a number that we haven't brought up. We also like to thank our partner, Arijit, and his team for giving us this opportunity. And if there's anything we can do to help in regards to answering questions, making recommendations, providing product information, etc., please feel free to reach out to myself or Arijit's team, and we would be happy to help.
Thank you so much, Todd, for the beautiful presentation. It was really, really informative. So we'll put the question and answer at the probably after all our speakers are done. You're right on time. Thank you so much. Like, we have around a minute to introduce our next speaker. I can see that he's already there, the legend, Mr. Ashish Kulkarni. So ladies and gentlemen, let me welcome our next speaker, Mr. Ashish Kulkarni. Ashish is an animation guru and came to be known as the most dedicated and colorful personality in his side of Hollywood over his 36 years of long career. He's a self-made man who has grown his career, and he's a great human being, a great soul, always there for supporting the cause of animation, gaming, virtual reality, comics, which we call as a combination AVGC. He is in the board of our central government ministry, advising our central ministry to uplift the whole cause of creativity, which is combined with logic. Thank you so much, Ashish ji, joining us, and the stage is yours, sir. Please enlighten us. But before you start, I'll be asking you to look at the camera for 2 minutes so that we can take a snap, because we're doing live tweets. So if you just speak, you can actually be in the first phase. Just say hello. That's it.
Hi, Arijit.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Give me a second. Let me check. I hope we are done. Yes, sir. Yeah. Thank you so much. Stage is yours.
Thanks,
sir.
Arijit, for wonderful words. A very good morning to all the participants and all the speakers and all the organizers at the World Leader Summit. It's actually been a very interesting times through the pandemic, especially for our industry. And I was told by Richard that, we need to do this summit, and I willingly actually accepted it. And the topic that he gave me for today is audience age, appropriateness, and acceptance in a specific context of animation in most of the countries. And I, been into this industry for quite some time, was amongst the first few people who got into animation in India, and got to learn a lot from countries like South Korea, Japan, Philippines in the initial stage. But most of my learning came from doing work with major American studios. And then I did a lot of co-productions with UK, Canada, France, Italy, Australia, and New Zealand. And some of the shows that we did with Brazil, Mexico, and Trinidad. And while we actually did the whole production cycles, we realized that, most of the content that we produce are actually talking to the kids. And the animation per se, ever since the .com happened in 1997, 98, 99, was actually growing in many countries where it was not existing at one point in time. And many countries had a long history and had an understanding of animation of more than 70, 80 years at that point in time, while uh, the countries in Asia and countries in Africa, Latin America, subcontinent, and all were actually waking up to the broadcast, you know, penetration and exposing kids to the animated shows. By default, in most of the countries that we actually see animation growing is particularly targeting the content towards the kids. And more so when I talk about the kids, it was measured majorly between age 4 to age 14. And then it used to be very simple, where you used to get the data of viewership, which actually targeted towards age 4 and age 14. And it was presumed in most of the parts of the world that all these kids are watching the same content. Very soon, a large amount of data, started coming in, which was about the boys and girls viewership. And then there was different surveys and different shows that was focused upon when the kids were looking at these programs. And the new programming which was happening went through the pre-testing and the concept testing and the character design testing mechanism. And that's where it was revealed that majority of these kids very quickly fall out of their interest areas, because the interest areas that they have when they are between maybe 2 years and 5 years are different than 6 to 9 years and 9 to 11. And no sooner they start actually reaching around teens in 13, they fall into a very different category. So a very mixed kind of reaction came from the kids who were around 12 years of age. And then most of the researchers were told by the broadcasters and the content creators that can we have a breakup of the data between different kind of kids watching what kind of programs. And that's where the preschool happened. And with a lot of pressure from the industry, the researchers then wanted to see how these how this age categories can be defined, because majority of the kids between the age of 2 to 7 or 8 required a guidance from their parents. And in many cases, the parents viewed the program along with the kids. And that gave a very different dynamics for advertising, very different dynamics for the complete consumption pattern, because you are watching under the supervision. And this is where the the push to actually measure content viewership from 18 months onwards started coming into many countries. Whereas to give you an example of India, we have a BARC measuring system right now. We used to have TAM measuring system, and then they have their own data with different kind of size of markets that they capture the data from. Today, I must tell you that the BARC is world's one of the biggest content research company with more than 150,000 meters in different parts of the country, whether you're talking about the urban measurement or rural measurement, different categories, different age profiles, and different socioeconomic profiles, which are measured in terms of viewership. And then came a pressure again that I was talking about, which is driven by the broadcasters and the creators, that we need to start measuring it from 18 months. And it's so difficult. So they made it from 2 years to 14 years. And then broke it up into the preschool segment, into the the most active segment, which is 6 years to maybe 11 years. That's where the largest amount of kids can be measured, making decisions for toys and many other things. But a preschool is a very important segment, which is actually 18 months to around 5-6 years. But we find it very difficult to do a data analysis for some of these areas, because the advertisers are not very convinced that they should really look at uh, this data to really see how the advertising can be focused, because the advertising at that time is getting focused at certain brands, and certain advertising is getting focused at the parents. Uh, and that's where world over the phenomenon was that around 140 countries looked at animation as the kids genre, and I think that's making animation industry a little jittery, because that's where they feel that your reach, although the potential is much larger to reach out to multiple ages, and I'll come to these multiple age categories. But having centered it around the kids, it's actually uh, becoming restrictive as far as the viabilities, and also the content, acceptability, as we say, into these areas. And that's where you see certain countries producing only kids animation. And I think it's a great foundation to be into, because as these kids would grow through their generations, from coming in to becoming teenagers, and then becoming growing out of teens, and then becoming parents, uh, they would definitely look at some of these iconic characters to be introduced to their kids. And I think that's where the cycle actually changes, and that's where a large amount of uh, the kids who grew up on animation, and the whole set of generations would then get into the the next stage, and they would start introducing it to their kids, and that's how it will actually change to be accepted till the age of, say, 35, 40. And but the thing is that the content creation and the appropriateness would not actually shift the focus from the kids genre itself. And that's the dilemma that most of our countries, more than 120 odd countries out of 140 who have a very active animation presence, are actually facing. But there are these top 20 odd countries who have a long animation history, and have actually accepted that this form of storytelling, this format, is truly not about the kids genre. It's all about making this as an entertainment tool, as an educational tool, as a knowledge sharing tool, as a communication tool, as a audiovisual communication tool, to reach out, or to you know do a delivery of a content uh, to different age profiles. And many evolved countries also face this problem of animation being considered as kids genre for almost 70 years before they made some path-breaking feature films, which actually went to the box offices, and they started actually drawing uh, the families to watch this together. And I think when the family starts watching this together, uh, that's when you definitely change the business model for creation of these kind of animations. And that's where we saw that while you actually go into the television medium, it's actually been decided by the categories set up by the broadcaster and the rest of the ecosystem to focus around the branding of the network, or the branding of the channel, as a kids channel or a teenager channel or a youth channel or a general entertainment channel. But when it comes to the feature films, it's a lot more open because television by nature would come into your homes, into your bedrooms, into your drawing rooms. And that's where when you do a subscription, the content start getting thrown at you. But you need to make a very special effort to actually get up, book tickets, and go to the shows outside and have an experience with your families. And that's uh, when the whole family decided to start getting entertained with an amazing content. So the complete script writing, the design of the story, the design of the settings into the story, and the design of the characters were actually communicating with age profile right from 4 years to maybe 40 years. And I think that's where the larger challenge of designing your scripts, designing your content, and making sure that it is relevant for the complete set of people who are watching it, and the way you actually present those stories in a captivating way to ensure that it is actually making sense and it is kind of appropriate for all the age profiles who are watching it, and they are getting entertained and they are actually getting hooked to the story right from the word go till the end of the story. And I think that's the power of telling these stories in a very different form. The grammar of animation in particular, as you will see, would actually have a scope of accommodating all forms of storytelling in a very, very different way, because it's a very neutral form of storytelling. And if you really get to see, animation storytelling is the only form of storytelling that exists in this world, apart from, you have gaming now, you have, uh, XR, which is actually, falling in the same genre, and maybe even comics. These are the form of storytellings which actually cuts across boundaries, cultures, ages, uh, you know, uh, anything that may come in between uh, your form of storytelling in a simple way. Because when you actually dub your show in animation in any language, not the original production language, and dub it into your local languages, and actually build that whole humor or that whole scene into a very different space itself. No sooner you dub it, nobody can tell that it was not created in the dubbed language that you are seeing it into, because it's a very neutral form of storytelling. And that's why its universality is extremely, extremely high. It actually cuts across boundaries, cultures, and age profiles very seamlessly. It doesn't have that language barrier that most of the other form of storytelling has. And that's why, to look at its appropriateness, it's a no-brainer that the shelf life, because of this, for the animated content is way higher than any other form of storytelling. Of course, there are ways and means of measuring it, but uh, animation characters live a very, very long life. Just to give you an example, we have the oldest character called Winnie the Pooh, which is about 106, 107 years old, and followed by Mickey Mouse, who is about 103 years old. And then we have many, many characters which are created by many countries, which actually have been able to make the character brand impressions in more than 70 countries, 80 countries, 100 countries. Maybe some of the characters are very, very popular in their own countries and their own ecosystem. But these characters actually form a special bond and a special relationship with their audience. And that's where it becomes more important that these characters do right things, and these characters actually concentrate on basically connecting with their audience with the purpose that they have been created in the set environment, that they have been allowed to do things, what we call it as the do's and don'ts. When a birth is given to a character in animation, there is something called as the character design, character turnarounds, the character, uh, you know, moods, attitudes, and the complete design of a character in very different way. And that Bible of the character is followed into, uh, creation for hundreds of years, if the character is going to live for hundreds of years. And more the exposure that you give to these characters, more they live in different countries, in different cultures, and in different forms. And that's why uh, these characters are very carefully crafted, very carefully created. There is the science behind creation of these characters, and these characters actually are so well defined that they can do X amount of things and they cannot do, certain things, and that is a magic that rules the animation storytelling. And no sooner you actually start relating with these characters, you start thinking, whether this character has these limits, which as an audience, initially, none of the audience would know why it has been doing like this. But as the threshold, what we call it in our space, in terms of the number of episodes that actually resonates with its audience to make it a character brand, where relatability of the character becomes more relevant, the branding becomes more firmer, and the recommendation starts happening, and the audience start buying the character t-shirts, the character ecosystem, and they start to live into the character ecosystem. And there are many cases that we see that especially in the kids world, that they would like to have their birthday themes, they would like to have their party themes, they would like to have their textbooks actually with these characters. And these characters, the way they teach them, they start accepting things more willingly, and that's why they can actually become best of your buddies, best of your friends. At the same time, they can actually add so much of value in terms of your learning and your well-being. And they can actually make or break a lot of things that your habit ecosystem can have, your behavioral ecosystem can have. And then actually looking at the other paradigm before we come back to this comparison is the evolved animation countries, who actually, if you have a right example of some parts of the United States of America, some parts of Canada, UK, you have some European countries, and more definitive example is Japan and South Korea, where the adult animation is very common. And if you actually travel in the trains in Tokyo, you will see a large amount of people in all ages are consuming content which is animated, which is the anime style. They consume manga comics. That's a unique style that they've created over a period of last 100 years. But what's unique is they still get entertained with generalized stories, which are actually consumed by all ages, or specific stories that have been created for adults. And they consume those stories with the same level of interest or more than the live action stories. And I think that's where you have a very unique arc that has been developed into these evolved countries for the audience, for the acceptance of the content in animation, in a in a very specific way, so that you are able to uh, be entertained into a particular format, and you get hooked on to that format again and again and again. And then we have seen very amazingly crafted uh, the comic books at the in the same genre, which are targeting maybe 25 years to 45 years. We have also seen content on the OTT as well as the gaming side, which actually targets the adult audience, and they could actually do this in a very unique way. So this is something which is going beyond, and no sooner your content that is crafted for the family entertainment starts drawing a large amount of traction, uh, those kind of formats can actually turn into a much bigger success on the box office or any other platform that you are you are actually taking this content to, because suddenly your horizons are have expanded beyond kids, and the paying power for the advertisers or the subscription actually starts getting grown multifold. And that is something which every creator in this space would like to really see. And as you actually see that the family entertainment space uh, uh, coming in the coming days, maybe through OTT, maybe through other forms of digital interaction, can actually look at this space more precisely uh, in the specific ways, like the COVID situation is not allowing people to do their shoots properly, do their because you have to interact in the live action, and the animation storytelling has definitive role to play, that you can actually still create it, because through the pandemic, one of the content creations apart from gaming, comics, which continued to deliver, was animation shows, because kids could take it, like people could take it home, create it and send it over the internet for the dailies and editing, and the shows were still delivered. Of course, feature films have their own challenges because of the bandwidth and the size of the content packets which you need to actually send across the network. But television shows and the OTT shows were definitely delivered. Although initially in the month of April and May we had a little bit of trouble, but post that the deliveries were perfectly fine. And coming to the comparison, that the ecosystem that works in the feasibility and the business capabilities of taking animation to different appropriate ages is not restricted only to the entertainment space, because what you want to explain in the work environment can be explained so easily with the animated characters and the animated environment. And that's why you have many corporates using animation to communicate with their own employees, using animation to communicate with their consumers, and the complete ecosystem of positioning their services or their character brands or their service brands, and even their products. At the same time, a large use of this form of content creation is used today in the medical and the healthcare areas, because it's much easier to explain the patients, or much easier to explain a person who is trying to understand what is going through their body, and where the disease is, or what are the kind of symptoms they have, versus what should be the solution and what they need to take care of. In case of heart diseases, in case of liver, in case of intestine, digestive system, or even kidneys, or any of the parts of the body, the brain, you need to explain them in a very simplistic form. And that's where animation becomes so very handy tool. and it actually is a very appropriate tool or appropriate form of storytelling to explain various things in the healthcare and the medical segment. At the same time, we have seen many journals, the research journals and all getting translated in different forms where that people can actually make use of the research in the right way. And that's when animation is very effectively used. Today, most of the news channels use animation in the right way to explain things quickly as to what would have happened actually on the site if the cameras were not captured the whole thing. At the same time, you have game simulations, you have war simulations, and then you also have legal animation where whatever has happened, where people were not present, but you need to present it to the court and the overall justice system. Animation is the form of storytelling that can actually recreate the scene in a very unique way. And it can actually, with the 3D capture and a volumetric capture we just saw in the last session, you can actually see it with various angles as to how it would have really happened. And a lot of conclusions can be drawn. And that's why I think it's a great future, and it's a very, very appropriate form of storytelling mechanism and the format which can actually look at all ages. Although we are presently entertaining the kids the best way in the largest part of the world ecosystem. But we really see that this is going to change over the period of times in most of the countries. And I feel proud that many countries are accepting this form of storytelling and growing so that even the audience find it appropriate at all ages to accept stories in the animated form. And I think I've just kind of completed 30 minutes my time, and Arijit is watching me. I would hand it over back to Arijit. Arijit, it's been really nice, and all the sessions that you've planned are mind-boggling. And I think it's a great ecosystem that you have created. I think it's a mind-blowing 10 days, and I can't stop appreciating every single speaker that you have brought onto the platform, and the kind of format you have created to actually share this knowledge. And these capsules are going to find the same amount of age as animated characters, I can tell you.
Of course, of course. Ashish, if you look at the whole ecosystem, that's like the kind of speakers, they are really amazing. Not only that, you all are change makers. You all are leaders. So the very term world leader is actually really appreciable from various part of the globe. So let me tell the audience and all of you, we have got, at the moment, we have got 58 questions from social media. Yeah. So please hold on with us because we are actually running in on time. And thank you so much for the beautiful speech, Ashish ji. Please stay with us. I hope this number of questions will increase. Few of them are a bit technical, so I'm not sure if I'm getting Todd at the moment or not. Yeah, Todd just sent me a text. He'll be back, no worries. So we have Vinit, we have Mr. Pradeep, and we have Ashish ji with us.
Hi, Vinit.
Hi, Ashish. How are you?
Good, man. Good to see you.
A pleasure, always a pleasure to hear you. I'm lucky to be in a presentation where you are there. Great.
Thanks.
Wonderful.
Thanks.
Okay, so Vinit ji, just give me a second to take a snap of yours so that we can formally do the tweet. All done. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me welcome Mr. Vinit. Vinit is the Dean of Chitkara University. He is a knowledge partner in UI, UX and game design with TCS Ion. He is on board of studies of Skill, a cutting-edge design school in Chandigarh. He has spoken in various different universities, international summits, and he is a change maker. Vinit ji, the session is yours. So just as a small request, we have a beautiful audience. We have a lot of people who are, I can see that people are from Australia, Mexico, Lebanon, Malaysia, Egypt, India, and of course, Canada. And I can see 2 people who joined from Africa as well. I can see there are audience who are actually sending us text from various different parts of the globe. We are, collecting their data. So The stage is yours, Vinitji. We'll be having a Q&A round right after your speech. Then we'll move to the next speaker. So it's your stage.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thanks. And I am thankful to the entire audience for turning up from across the globe. And I hope I fulfill their desire to know more about the story, about the characters, and about a perspective. I am sure most of them are quite knowledgeable about these things, but there's always another perspective that someone can add. So I'm trying to add that perspective. So basically, it's about getting your story heard. So it is not about how to market your story, but making a story that travels. Basically, the keyword nowadays has been viral. So viral definitely happens once in a while, although a lot of times it is being pushed. But either way, you have to have the right content to get it heard. So what are the key components of a story? And then we'll go to what exactly a story means. So the key component are basically a universal appeal, which sounds very obvious, but it's not so easy. Universal appeal doesn't mean designing a character that appeals to everybody. A lot of people think that way, but universal appeal means it has a story, it has a life, it has character growth. Then it has to have a right intrigue or challenge inside the story. I'll come to that in a more detailed way. And then, of course, the character design is not important to the story really, because a story of a stone also can appeal. But character appeal is more important for the franchise to spread, because the character should be merchandisable. That is what a character appeal is. So especially in Korea, when I noticed, they first work very hard for a very long time in Korea and Japan to make the character. Like comparably in the other parts of the world, we are more focused on the story and then design a character which is which looks good to fit into the story. So there's a huge difference in how we make characters. So they will first make the character, then even make pillows out of it. They see whether the character gels well with all kind of merchandise. The kids are loving the character, and then they start telling the story. So there's a fundamental difference, and if we take this, we'll be able to tell stories much better. And then, of course, the spread in the French end. So, but before that, we have to understand why do we tell stories. Like first, let us look at history and fiction. Basically, there is just one small difference between history and fiction. That in fiction, even the characters are imaginary. I hope you get the point. The history is also imaginary. In history,
yes.
Yeah, in fiction, the characters are also imaginary. So in history, what happens is the real characters, a lot of fiction is built around them to create history. What all history we read has hardly perfect. In fact, it has one small iota of truth, and the entire part is fiction. So that is where storytelling began. The storytelling formally in the world was kind of introduced by Ramayana, the formal introduction of storytelling in the world. And why that story was told, I'll come to that in a very detailed reasoning on why stories are told. But I'll come to Ramayana. So why do we tell stories? I could list 5 fundamental reasons for telling stories. The first is we believe we saw the world differently. Like I saw a different world, and that world is not being seen by most. So I want to tell. For example, Walt Disney saw that these animals are talking. He saw a different world which he believed that nobody else is seeing. So he wanted to show that world to you. Alternatively, the second reason, we believe that we have a different world to show. Now, it sounds same, but it is very different. For example, I have been to the space. I know that it is very different. I want to capture the feel of that space, and I want to bring it to you. So what story will come out? Gravity. It come, feel the loneliness. It is not see the space. It is feel the loneliness of the space. Or a movie I saw when I was pretty young, The Deep. If anybody has seen that movie, and all those the dinosaurs based movies, all of those are that I saw a different world. I want to share it with you. We believe we can entertain and amaze. This is the most common premise that we take. But going a little deeper into this premise, if you go back into history, for example, in Indian film industry, Raja Ravi Verma saw that the entertainment part is going to change. He saw that films were going to be the way to tell stories as compared to the way he was doing. He was basically doing paintings through which he was telling stories. So he funded Dada Saheb Phalke, as the lore goes, folklore says, that Dada Saheb Phalke was funded by him to start filmmaking. And Dada Saheb Phalke, he was a magician. So he saw that the entertainment, beside being a print expert, so as a magician, he believed that the new way to show magic is going to come through films. Now, what does a magician do? He will produce somebody from one end of the stage, right? And he saw that the films were able to do this very easily and do much more. It could create an entire world what the magician was trying. So technically, he saw that the magicians were being replaced by the filmmakers. So the solution can be about amazing. Then the fourth aspect is we believe we have a solution to a problem. This is a very tricky thing. What happens is sometimes we can go overboard with this approach. Going overboard is we believe that our earth is being destroyed, the pollution will destroy it, and we find a solution and we want to show it. So we have to realize that we are not doing a documentary. We are telling a solution, but we are trying to show a solution happening. So we don't actually tell the solution, we show how the world will be with that solution. This is where I'll bring in Ramayana. Ramayana apparently is, of course, a story, like I earlier said, built around one fact and a lot of fiction.
We need a small input. So we have actually attendees from various parts of the world. So a lot of them don't know what is a Ramayana.
Oh, great. But I'm sure they must have sometimes heard about it. But anyway, in India, much before Christ was born, there was a king called Rama, who was very famous, probably across all of Asia. He's still known. Even in Cambodia, you can see his temples. His reign reached far and wide, and he was pretty much the ideal king. So they wanted to tell the teachers, which in India we call rishis.
Probably we are losing
wanted to tell this story to kids so that it be more dramatic. Hello?
Yeah, you're audible.
Yeah. Okay. These stories had to be much more dramatic than a simple story about not a list of what that king was doing. So they built a huge story around it, and they were also pointing out to a lot of possibilities in the world. So everything right from aircrafts were being shown in that story. So they imagined that someday people and how the world should be, how the world should behave. Everything was in that story, but never in a didactic way, like in a documentary. So the problem, when we show a solution to a problem, it must not be didactic. Of course, it must be a complete story and full of entertainment value. And last, we believe that we have seen the future. Like, again, Ramayana would be, E.T., of course, many people won't know, was kind of born in India. And that's another story. So we'll come to it if anybody is interested. Basically, Satyajit Ray had created the character of E.T., which was borrowed by Spielberg and created in the form of E.T. And so this is the core.
Yeah, it was called Bonku Babur Bondhu.
Aha.
That's the story.
Many times we don't come to know of it. So if we believe that we have seen the future, then there's a perfect reason to tell a story. Okay. Here, I believe that the innovators and filmmakers or animators are at the same platform. For example, if I believe that I know, like I have a product that I want to make, but I believe that it is beyond my capacity. I do not have the required engineering skills. So there are two ways to go about it. Go to a startup mode and get those engineers and get the product made. But I believe there's one more way. I can show that product in a film, in use, all these features, and somebody will make those products. Like, for example, even in Star Trek, when you have those laser guns and a lot of laser things. So even today, I see many people trying to make those products and successfully. So even in older movies, we saw X-ray vision of people who saw through others, and X-rays and other things followed. So scientists get a lot of ideas through these films. So a filmmaker is contributing in many ways than the pure entertainment value that we usually think that they are doing. Right? So these are the 5 aspects I believe are very important. And the most interesting thing about human mind is that human mind, the problem of human mind is that it treats everything as a puzzle. So as soon as your audience is in front of you and you start showing something, the mind is running ahead of the film, always. So that is a very important aspect if we can somehow harness that power. So if the mind is thinking ahead, now the thing is that we cannot be a slave to that mind. And so obviously we can't show the obvious. The audience will be disgusted if you show them what they're thinking. So they will think this is going to happen. So if the same things keep on happening, we are not helping that mind enjoy the puzzle. So he's trying to solve what you're trying to show, and you're always, the director who remains always ahead, or the storyteller remains always ahead of that mind, is gonna win the battle. So if you can continue the intrigue till the end, including the end, then the audience is fully satisfied. That is what was shown in a movie called The Prestige. He said that the magic is a 3-act play, but the 3rd act is the most important. The audience knows that you will vanish this, for example, the pigeon or whatever. You will vanish that. That the audience knows, it believes, or you vanish the human being. The audience is intrigued when you bring him back from a destination they cannot expect. So usually you'll see the great magicians, they will vanish your purse and it will come out of an unknown person's pocket. Those kind of things are what intrigues people. They cannot solve that puzzle. They can solve the puzzle of how you made a person vanish. They know you have got trenches under your stage. They know everything. They can imagine. They cannot see, but they can imagine everything. They know you.
I guess there is some network glitch, but to be very honest, it's a very beautiful, interesting discussion and great speech by our good friend Vineet. I think we are having some technical issues. He'll be back very soon. But before we probably have him back, let me open the floor for question and answer. You can use the Q&A box, even though we got a lot of questions from social media. So let me ask those questions to starting with Mr. Ashish Kulkarni. Um, I'll just try to put it directly from the quote that he has done in internet. So let me pull it up. Okay. I am from Zambia and we do localized content and we are into motion comics
Yeah.
and looking for a collaborator in India because we believe you have a lot of creative people and we can probably do a joint venture. Your thoughts, and sir, I'll be obliged if you can show me a path how to filter Indian companies so that we can connect them. Internet is not that valid, viable way of communication. Is there any way you can help? Directly to you.
Uh, yes, in fact, you definitely can collaborate with Indian companies. We have more than 450 different companies in India for animation, and they all create content which are for service, for co-production, and creating original IP. And many of them actually work with many countries for the last 2 decades or so. Having said that, the way you can build your relationships is basically write to Arijit or me, and we will quickly look at what kind of matching skills that you want. And we have associations of the animation companies at a national level under FICCI and CII. And then we have associations which are, India is divided between 29 different states. So we have around 11 states where we have very active animation, visual effects, and gaming industry. And then there we have local associations and also a group of companies who come together to do the co-productions of such kind. At the same time, we have a platform under NFDC. It's called National Film Development Corporation, and there is a facilitation office under the National Film Development Corporation. And if you connect with them on the website, they would connect you to the right stakeholders. So there are various means, but what happens is that when you go to different markets, especially MIPCOM, MIPTV, or Kidscreen, NSE, you meet many of these studios, then you build your relationships, and that's how you actually start working together. But nothing like going through the right references that you can get. So you can please write to us, and we will direct you, to the right companies to partner with.
For the audience and the person who has the question in social media, Ashish is available in LinkedIn as well as in a couple of other social media. His mail ID is also there. He has got a website. What I'm going to do, my team will get back to you with his email ID or probably the website. You can connect him directly. He's the best guide, best person to communicate with. Okay, the next question probably I'll split it to Mr. Pradeep and you both because the question is actually a bit business oriented as well as a bit technical, both. We are an indie studio. We are an indie studio based out of Mexico, and we have MVP ready and want to produce content based on extended reality. Have been looking for a collaboration with a few parts of the world. Just got to know about World Leader Summit. Uh, Enjoyed yesterday's speech and learned that now sports personalities are looking for AR VR XR solution. I need to know if Mr. Pradeep or Mr. Ashish can help us to understand number one, the fundraising process for my MVP. Number two, business collaboration and association legalities for a foreign company like us to enter into Australian or Indian market? Number three, what is the ecosystem for Australia and India? You both can answer. I'll start with Ashish ji, then move to Pradeep ji.
Yeah, so entering India, I will take it first. It's fairly easy. The complete sectors of IT, ITES, in which this industry is defined, has 100% FDI allowed in India. So you can actually come here. You can take help of the national bodies, or there are certain incubation centers in different cities that you go to. We also have the NASCOM incubator, and you can actually initially come out of the incubator and then go and do the facilitation of forming your company here. Secondly, in terms of all the aspects of AR, VR, we see there is a lot of evolution in the country, in some of the countries like UK, and they have a lot more evolved system of engaging in the extended reality segment. India is actually shaping up big time with a very specific policy that is coming up at the national level. And we have cities like Hyderabad, Bangalore, Mumbai, Pune, Chennai, Trivandrum, Cochin, Kolkata, and Delhi, NCR region, we call it, extended region around Delhi, which is India's capital. We have very specific companies who are actually engaging into XR ecosystem. So you definitely can look at first partnering with them and then setting up as well. So you can do a step-by-step approach to do this. In terms of funding, no sooner you have your business plan ready, there is a startup ecosystem in the startup fund that is available in most of the parts. So you can access that. And otherwise, you can actually look at placing yourself in the incubator, go through that process, and that's when you can access some more funding going through their ecosystem of the fundraising process. Over to you, Pradeep ji.
Look, let me comment by responding to your three questions. Number one was in regard to funding. In fact, in the last global summit that ARA Association had in the month of June, I had conducted a panel session which had people from angel, VCs, private equity, as well as from patents attorneys. Now, the question really is that when you look at from a funding perspective, you see, these agencies look at sectors, that is education, health, so on and so forth. They do have a bucket which is kept for emerging technologies, and AR, VR is one of them. So the way to approach funding situations is to look at which sector are you trying to solve business problems for if you are focused on B2B basis. And all of these agencies will very clearly look for business value, not so much in terms of the technology. Yes, technology is one of the points to be considered in terms of whether it is a unique technology or not, kind of a thing. So that's my initial response. The second response is that you should join the VR AR Association because we are creating a huge global community which is of all different stakeholders, because that's where we've got people sitting in Hong Kong who are now talking in terms of getting VR AR folks to pitch to angel investors, VC in odd space and other kind of platforms. So if you really want to look for a dedicated VRAR community, including funding agencies, then join the VRAR Association. Feel free to reach out to me. I can help you in that. Number two question was in regard to looking at India and Australia. Now, See, if you are based in Mexico, then what you are looking for is a global delivery model. That means you want to leverage the low cost of doing your developing content in Mexico and for using it in countries, different parts of the world. Now, for instance, so far as Indian market is concerned, I think you will have a very, very difficult time because you will not be, you see, your advantage in terms of low cost is easily offset by the low cost which is available in India. India, there's a lot of work which is happening under the radar. Like I said, there are state governments, both in Philippines and in India, who are looking at positioning India as a global center for content development. So I personally feel that you will be finding it difficult to get into India. Now, when it comes to Australia, or for that matter, any international market, you see, what you'll find is, as I mentioned in my earlier talk, that there are 3,500 plus entities which are based in China. There is 1,000 plus entities which are based in South Korea. And there are similar kind of numbers. And as I said, there are 1,500 plus entities in Australia. Now, what is happening is that large number of companies means the domestic market is not that big at the moment. So you find that the Korean, the Chinese people or the Indian people are looking at Australian and New Zealand as a market. The New Zealand people are looking at, Korea, China, and India as a market. So you will have to look at what is your unique value proposition and then look at market entry strategies. There are different strategies for that. Australia is a fairly open economy. There is not much required for you to start business. Of course, it is helpful for you to have a local entity or a partner. Now, these are my top of the mind comments. Don't recollect what your third question was, but I'm more than happy to go through it. And you can take my email ID from Arijit and send me an email, and I can kind of help you in terms of the VRAR association. But over to you, Arijit.
Thank you. The next question is from the hardware side. I'm not sure if Todd is there. From the hardware side, we have seen a lot of improvement, mainly from Asian perspective. I heard Arijit, I'm so sorry, I'm the host, so I need to quote those names. I'm really sorry. I heard Arijit was sharing in some conference regarding the motion capture small rings, which actually happened in South Korea. And we know that there are a couple of instruments which are available from the Western countries as well to support the high level instrumentation. So where is the possibility for a startup like us based out of Europe working mainly on hardware solutions for the next generation augmented reality, VR and AR? Could you please, I'm sorry, and XR, could you please enlighten me, because we are heavily funded by the investors, but we face a lot of problem to get consumer base instead of having a lot of marketing budget that we are pushing to push our products. Anyone can take this question. Coming probably from France, I can see the IP, but I can't.
This is Pradeep from Sydney. Let me respond at a very holistic level. You see, when you are a VR, AR, a supply company, you got to look at whether you want to go for a B2C business or whether you want to go for a B2B business. Now, B2C business means you are building up a brand, and that requires deep pockets. Because you'll be comparing with the likes of, especially if you're in hardware, you're comparing with the likes of Samsung, Sony's, and all these kind of people. I know that you mentioned that you are well funded, but what does well funded mean? I mean, if you're talking about even $5-10 million and all that, that's nothing, because these are huge global companies. But having said that, you see, there is a lot of work which is happening under the radar. Our global community, I can, so many people approach me, are people who are developing stuff in Thailand, in India, in China, and all over the world, kind of a thing. Again, I would suggest that if one of the biggest challenges of the AR VR ecosystem is that there is no way to validate your journey, because you don't know who's doing what. So be part of a community, join the VRAR association. Like I said, we've got more than 4,400 plus entities registered. And then you can reach out to any of the members and kind of talk to them. But these are my initial comments. Back to you, Arjit.
Ashish ji, your comments, please.
I would, means I completely understand what Pradeep ji is saying. I would say a couple of things. You need to find your way of specialization also. If you think the automobile guys are your key guys who would use your technology, or the education guys would look at edutech areas, or you look at the medical guys, then you specialize and you focus on them, and that would be a much easier solution for you. If you say that you are already funded, you need to find you. If you go generalized way, what Pradeep ji said would definitely help you, but you will still be lost. So if you know you are automobile special, then you go to Germany, you come to India, you come to very specific cities like Chennai and Pune, and you will find the right partners for you. You can do a head start, like Pradeep said, under the radar. You would start your relationship with one or two companies, and you can grow from there. If you go to medical, then you have very specific data available to you, and then you can customize your solutions for them, whether it's hardware or software, and then you can actually grow into that segment. I would suggest that you need to look at these to be finding the right partner first, and then growing with those partners.
Super. A direct question to you, Todd. I hope you're there. I can see you're muted. For IOI Industries, we have seen the kind of cameras you guys are making. I'm from South Korea. I'm awake just because this panel is happening, and would love to understand how we can procure your hardware in our country. Business Connect, Todd, if you're there, if you can just address.
Yeah, no, I'm here. No, I mean, Arjit, if you can provide him with my contact info. We do a lot of business in South Korea, in Asia generally, but yeah, it's very simple. It's not a problem at all.
Super. I can see Mr. Roberto is here. He is one of the finest investor, mainly into gaming and VR. And we know each other for quite a long time. Roberto, thank you so much for your comments and the personal chat. If you wish, just raise your hand. I can pull you up in the panel. You can probably put few things, the kind of investment and the kind of startups you are looking and investing in. Maybe share some stories that will really help the ecosystem players. Just raise your hand if you wish to, or just send me in WhatsApp. Meanwhile, let me go back to the next question. Flooded with question. I'm really sorry. Probably we'll keep it maybe after Avi's speech is over. But last question is pretty interesting. Okay, here it goes. I am from Ukraine, a place called Lviv. I have translated this, so it might happen that the construction might not be that good because I'm using online translator. I'm from a place called Lviv from Ukraine, a passionate game developer and a VR guy. My age is about 17 now. I earn a bit of money by working in cafe. Due to pandemic, I lost a lot of work, but whatever I had invested in my small setup, created small contents, but I need an expert opinion. If you really want to monetize my VR games, what is the best way to do it? Any one of you can take it. Ashish, Pradeep, Vineet, Todd, any one of you. I mean,
well, I'm not very well connected into this, so I'll let Pradeep take it.
So this is Pradeep here from Sydney. Let me comment very clearly, again at a holistic level. It is pretty obvious to me that yes, you have the passion, but one of the challenges is that, and I always advise people to follow their passion, but passion doesn't always pay the bills. So you have to strike the right balance, and looking at that you are in your point in life, what you need is to get a mentor to advise you, to help you in your journey and to get that. In a week, I get about 10, at least 10, reach outs to me from, Ukraine alone, of people offering, global delivery services in VR AR. I mean, I get so many of these things from all over the world. But I mentioned to you that, why? Because Ukraine has a lot of people into VR there. So it'd be worthwhile to, connect up with some, how, or I'll check up whether we've got a, chapter in Ukraine off the top of my mind. I don't know. And you can possibly, join over there and align with any mentors. But the key, this thing is find a mentor to help you in your journey.
So the person who asked this question, to be very honest, I can directly connect you with Daria. Daria running one of the finest XR and AR company based out of Kiev. She's amazing. You can always connect to Elena. Both of them are good friends. And as Pradeep ji said, they have probably got a chapter over there. So get a mentor. I think that's the best way to get some insights. But if you wish, I'll be more than happy to help you how to monetize your VR games. If it is games, if it is app, there is another different way. But localization is one of the best key I can tell you at the moment, and find local partners and hardware partners are one of the best way to monetize your games and apps. Okay,
Yeah.
with this note,
I would like to add one thing.
sure.
Another way could be to find an influencer who can showcase your content on their channel. It does reach out to people, so it's not bad. For example, I wrote a book about
Okay, Vinitji,
so
we
I'm reaching out to.
Vinitji,
You
we are
can't hear
losing
me?
you. Yeah, we
Hello?
can't hear you. And we actually
Oh.
missed your speech. But yes, we'll be doing it. We'll be doing it again. Don't worry. I'm your host, so I'll be more than happy to host you again. But we are actually on the right track with right timing, and we have got the next speaker. So I'll move to our next speaker, Avi Dwivedi from India, running a beautiful ecosystem, which is Extended Reality of India, has been sharing and caring and daring with World Leader Summit for quite a long time. Avi, thank you so much joining us. So I just need a small favor. I got a picture of Vinit ji, but I need a small picture of yours. Could you please turn on your mic and say something in the screen so that it becomes bigger and we can take the picture?
Good morning, Arijita, and I'm really delighted to be on this show, WLS. This is a great opportunity for a guy like me who's running a small community in India, which is, by the way, the largest community of India by now. And we are also expanding it to 10 more countries, which is by 2021. We are right now talking to 70 plus entrepreneurs and organizations who are ready to volunteer, and they are willing to expand in their own regions. So this is a fantastic news. And everybody who's watching us right now, in whatever region you are, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. So I'm Avi Dwivedi, and I'm the founder of Extended Reality Developers of India. I'm really excited to be on the show.
Thank you so much, Avi. So Avi got some cool things to share with us, and he has got a subject line, the next decade of technology ahead us. Avi, the floor is yours. So I'll keep myself in a mute mode.
Cool. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay. So let's just try. Let me just try to share my screen. I'm very not so okay with this OBS. So I'm just trying to find my way and share the screen. Okay, cool. I found it. Let me just share it. Okay, I'm sharing complete screen. And yeah, you guys should be able to see it by now. And let me also go Control L. Now it's full screen, but okay, let me share just the PDF so that you guys don't get this inside. Okay, just give me a second. I'm not going to take much time. Let me just cancel this share and share just the PDF call. Cool. Now you guys must see it better. Okay. So I'm going to expand it. Okay. So I'm Avi Dwivedi, and I'm really delighted to be on this platform, which is World Leader Summit 2020. And so many world leaders are taking part on this summit. So many entrepreneurs, so many creators, so many developers, so many storytellers are here right now with us. So yeah, without any further delay, let me just talk about this. So I am Avi Dwivedi, the founder of Extended Reality Developers of India, and I also have my own organization, which is Untitled Studios, which is a 12 people company. So yeah, so we are going to talk about next decade of technology ahead us. It's a very interesting topic. I mean, let's discuss that why it's necessary to talk about that. Okay. So one night I was laying in my bed and dreaming about, thinking about my life, thinking about the scenario around us. And there is always a common topic which I always think, which is time travel. So I'm very interested in time travel. Let me just show the next slide. So I was thinking the various ways of time travel, and one of these ways is sending the consciousness into the past. So there's a movie called Days of Future Past, X-Men, in which the Logan sends his consciousness into past, in his past body. So from there, the idea come from. So the idea is, if I could send my consciousness into 2013, when I was a college student, I must definitely be a millionaire or billionaire, because the kind of knowledge we have right now, if we could have that amount of time to put in, the time we wasted in learning those skills which we don't even require now, so we can definitely make some difference. So the idea is this: sending the knowledge, transferring the knowledge from 2020 to 2013, and it will work. It's the shortest way to be a billionaire. Okay, but maybe think about this: if you can even send your consciousness back even 1 year, you can still be a billionaire, right? Because what you will create next, maybe the next Zoom or maybe the next spatial for 2020, prepared to be there. But we are already late for that, because there are so many companies now, and nobody could predict the pandemic, nobody could predict the incidents. But and in fact, if I talk about predictions, what we cannot predict the future. I mean, talking about the predictions, we cannot, the very time is a one-dimensional arrow. It does not go back. So there's no point of going back, even theoretically. It's just does not catch up. So let's talk about, we can predict future, right? So if we can see what's going to happen in 2030, what 2030 is going to look like, we can definitely be prepared for that. All right, so let's try that. And this is the prediction is not that easy. All right, so prediction is hard. And why the prediction is hard? The people did it in 1900, and they predicted the year 2000 in 1900, and they used to believe people will walk on water in the year 2000, and that didn't happen. Or this is actually the post ticket of the year 1900, in which you can see they are assuming that people will walk on water, people will fly. And this is one of my favorite one: humans will never be able to fly. This was predicted in 1901 by Orville Wilbur. In next 2 years, in 1903, Orville and Wilbur, the Wright brothers, flew the first flight of the world. So they invented the airplane. So predictions are hard. But still, I'm going to try my best. So if I mess up, it's not my fault. It's just hard. Okay. So the first prediction is obviously the 5G and 6G. So China has already started working on 6G. But how fast is 5G? So the 5G is the peak speed which we will get on 5G is going to be 10 Gbps, which means it will be able to download more than 6 GB of file in less than a second, right? So this is super fast. A Blu-ray movie in less than 3.5 seconds, 25 GB of movie in less than 3.5 seconds. So it's super fast. So it's not just fast. And 6G, the target of 6G is going to be 100 Gbps. This technology will bring down the latency down to less than 1 millisecond. Right now, with the most advanced technologies, we have latency of 20 to 30 millisecond. The 5G at average will bring it down to 10 millisecond, which will means it will be a real time. Right now, the camera is looking at me and it's capturing my information and sending to this webcam, through this computer, to you, and there is a latency involved. If we can reduce this latency, we can put every computation on the servers. The device needs not to be bulky, and we can pack all the computing power on the cloud. We can use all those power through real-time computing. So that's the idea of 5G and 6G. This is why it's so important. Next biggest change of technology in 2030 is going to be the spatial computing. Right now, we have two sort of computing: the traditional computing, the quantum computing, but there is also spatial computing. So spatial computing is the data is in front of you. You are interacting with the data like it's a physical object. Data is not a physical object, but spatial computing gives you the power to interact with it as it is a real object sitting in front of you. You can take data, you can manipulate data, you can scale data, you can do all sort of things with that. This is used in augmented reality and virtual reality technologies. And yeah, there are so many experts talking about that technology here. So AI is next. AI is super powerful. AI is, those who don't understand AI is just like predicting, looking at the sky and predicting that how's the weather is going to be. What you are doing is you are making an intelligent decision based on various factors. You might be taking the factor of moisture in the air. You might be taking the factor of clouds in the sky. So prediction of on various factors, prediction of various parameters, making a decision based on various parameters is nothing but intelligence. And when we give the ability to make that decision to a computer, it's called AI. So AI is going to be a big part. It's already a big part here, but in future we'll use some sort of AI in every day. We are right now even using some, if we are doing a Google search, it's using a ton of AI already. But in future we'll have good and bad AI both. The AI like behavior analysis. Imagine you are going for an interview and interviewer can see inside you that how confident or how nervous you are about this interview. If you are talking to someone, he can analyze your expressions and tell that if you are speaking truth or not. I mean, it's just bad, and it's these products are already in development. So by 2030, these will be on the ground. So your personal emotions, your personal expression will not be your truly personal anymore. Next is social. So the idea is people will be socially more connected and more transparent. In year 2000, nobody would have traded this much amount of data, this much amount of privacy in return of almost nothing. But right now we have people, everybody is doing that, and it's called Instagram. We are trading our privacy, we are trading our all personal information, everything for sake of almost nothing. It's just a fake fake validism which you get from this social media that you are connected. So this sort of social network will be there. I'll also talk about that. So volumetric revolution, what I call it. So right now, we are interacting. If you look at the year 2006, we were interacting 90% of the time in form of text. If you look at right now, we are interacting almost 60 to 70% of the time with images. We send each other images, we send each other videos. But by the year 2030, we'll be talking in terms of this volumetric data. So this volumetric data is really hard to capture right now. You basically require a rig. I recently connected to an organization called 4D View, and they have these sort of big rigs. Basically, these are the cameras sitting all around a person, and they capture click at the same time, and they capture the volumetric arrangement of any object, which is basically which is called voxel, volumetric pixel. And this data is right now very hard to capture, but in future we'll discover some sort of radiation based technique in which you will have some sort of radiation, like even a Wi-Fi signal will do that. And through that signal, if that signal is in the room, that signal, the bounce of that signal will be able to predict that how much volume is there, or what is the basically shape of some particular object in that particular sync. So this is already being tested, and we can see through walls using the Wi-Fi signal. If somebody is walking in the room, we can pretty much make an image of that person. In future, it will be a volumetric data. So volumetric data will see a revolution by 2030. Connectivity. So as I said, what I told about the socialism, this is almost the same. In 1990, we did a survey and we found out there is a 6 degree of connection between each person in the world to any other person, which means you can put 6 people in the line and they'll know each other, and you can connect any 2 people in the world to each other by this method. So 2018, this number was reduced to 3.5. My prediction is by the year 2030, this data will be 1.8. In some ways, through LinkedIn, through Facebook, we are already achieving these sort of goals. And everybody will know everybody. There will be no strangers in future. So BCI, brain computer interface. So as I told about one input method with it, which is spatial computing, but there will also be BCI, brain computer interface. I recently did a session at GW about BCI. That talk is pretty amazing. You must check out. But in short, this is basically the mapping of your brain. Whenever you think about something, your brain makes a signal. We can basically read that signal. Is it a positive signal? Is it a negative signal? You are thinking in the yes direction, you are thinking in the no direction. And we can basically convert that signal into a command. And that command is being used in BCI to operate machines, to control a mouse and all sort of things. With BCI, the anonymous things can be achieved. And recently, Neuralink is being developed by Elon Musk company. It's an Elon Musk company. They are doing an invasive operation on with that. They are basically putting some chips in your brain, and that will be able to detect those sensors. But in future, I'm really sure it could be done. It could even now be done at very minimal scale with these sort of headsets. But in future, it will be all invasive methods. You would not require any surgery for this, and you can definitely use these sort of brain-computer interfaces. So real or fake? So right now I have so many people on the screen, and the irony is this: if I could kill anyone, I would not be sent to a jail, because all the people here are not real. All the people here are generated by a computer program. It's called generative adversarial neural network. So neural networks, you can think of neural networks as a person, specifically generative adversarial neural network. You can think about them as imagination. Suppose if I give you a task of imagine Tom Cruise drinking beer, okay? So you can totally see that. You might have never seen Tom Cruise drinking beer, but when I just said it, you can totally imagine that picture. So when artificial intelligence does the same task, it does in form of videos, it does in form of photographs, and which is here. So in future, these photos, these are already becoming indistinguishable from the real data. You might have seen some Barack Obama videos. There was even a Manoj Tiwari video. So it's going everywhere. So distinguishing between what is real and what is fake is going to be really hard by the year 2030. So good luck for that. However, AI is also working against it. AI technologies like Photoshop even developing some sort of AI which will be able to detect with that if the model is fake or not. But it's going to be a tug war between those two. Next is mobile phone will disappear. It will not literally happen like the 2.0 movie in which the mobile phone disappeared, but it will happen like this. Mobile phone will disappear, and because of these glasses, this is not the future, this is the current technology. This is Unreal Glass, and this other one is an Indian company called Nemo Planet. So these two technologies will give us, I mean, you do imagine you don't have to carry a brick in your pocket when you're talking and walking. You can talk to people without looking at your phone. You can get all the information simultaneously. It's just a new heaven. I don't know how people are going to take this, but mobile phone will definitely disappear. So all the entrepreneurs who are working into that, getting into the app industries, trying to make the next Flipkart, make for this one, and you will definitely find the success in this. So time travel. Now, finally, I started thinking from time travel, and now we are back to this. So one of my friend, Lucas Risotto, built this time machine, and this is literally a way of storing and revisiting memories in virtual reality. So in virtual reality, there's a technology called 360 capture. You can definitely capture things in 360. And when you capture that, it's like you're capturing all the surroundings. So you can definitely revisiting them in your virtual reality headsets. Lucas did it with a personal view, which was from 2 eye camera, Snapchat glasses, but you can definitely do the same with 360. So I'm also building the same with 360. So this is how I'm building my own time machine. So yeah, we started with 360, we started with time machine, and finally we can build that. So that is a full circle. And that is the essence of my talk today at WLS.
Thank you so much, Avi, for being such a great speaker. So Avi is available for any kind of communication. He is there live in any social media that you can think of. But let me tell you, Avi, and for all the speakers and for all the audience, 2018, probably in March, I was talking in a conference in Dubai with, I forgot the number of audience, probably 5,000 and all. It was specifically for the next generation technology. And I was sharing basically a structure for these augmented reality glasses. So what will happen? These glasses will be connected. You rightly said, I mean, probably mobile will not disappear, but these kind of glasses will have a direct communication, heavily supported by a blockchain backend with augmented reality based glass, AI ecosystem based structure, which I call as more of extended reality implementation. Imagine a situation that probably you are driving a car and your glass knows your health system when you're hungry, and it understands when you eat and what kind of food you eat. So imagine it's 5 o'clock in the evening. You usually have a cup of coffee and probably some cookies. The glass will say that, I know you are hungry, and I can see there is a restaurant within the next 3 kilometers. And would you like to order some coffee and cookies? I know your favorite is espresso double shot, and probably you will go for these kind of raisin-based cookies. When you blink your eyes, probably that's a yes. The order will automatically go to that restaurant. When you're there, your order is ready. You don't have to pay anything. You don't have to bring out your wallet. The payment is already done from your bank because it is interconnected with those AI-powered blockchain system. And once it is done, your voice tagging, that's a new technology which is coming up. Your voice tagging will actually scrutinize whether it is you, and then again cross-check with your retina and give a tick that yes, this is probably Avi or probably Ashish or probably Arijit or probably Vineet. Take the money from XXX whatever account that is there. And the fun part is probably this payment will happen in crypto. When I was sharing it with those number of audience, I got a huge response. People started saying that you're talking crazy. It cannot happen. Like this is probably you're talking something science fiction. But when we go back to Vineet's talk, when he was trying to share about Ramayana and Mahabharata, and you are talking about time travel, can the audience imagine about our mythology and our cultural stories? Those were not magic probably. When you look at timeline is a circle, and we are in small frame. Because we are inside that frame, we can't see the future, neither we can go back to the past, right? But on those times, if you enhance your neural system, you can do wonders in life. You can actually see through what is coming up. And those people we call as thought leaders, change makers. And we are blessed that we have all these people in our panel. So we'll go back to the Q&A again, but before that, let me introduce you to another great speaker, a thought leader. The reason he is here in this VR panel is he is an ex-IAS, a TEDx talk speaker, a motivational keynote public speaker with 30 lakhs, 3 million views, a best-selling author, finding success within 52, life skill for young Indians, an ex-director for tourism industries and IT. And when you look at the VR, tourism and VR goes hand in hand. Welcome, Mr. Vivek, to World Leader Summit. Could you please turn on your mic, and may I request Avi to please mute yourself, and then we can have the Q&A round. Thank you, Vivek, sir. I'll request you to please turn on your mic, say a few words so that we can capture your face and put it live in few of the other social media.
Thank you very much, Arijit. Thank you for inviting me and also to this World Leader Summit. In fact, it's a great initiative and we have been in touch in the last few weeks. I'm very happy to be a part of this eminent panel of judges and mentors. It's a wonderful idea to connect like this. And in fact, although I speak in webinars almost every day, it is life now, which is a new type of life. But I think that these creative initiatives, they always bring a spark to the day and life. So all the best for this.
Thank you so much. So sir, the floor is yours. I'll keep myself mute. Please enlighten us with your knowledge and your passion.
Okay, how much time do you want me to speak for?
20 minutes.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure for me once again to be here. And in fact, I have been in touch with Arijit for this, and I find that a creative idea like this brings out the best in me also. So I'm hoping that I will be able to inspire a few ideas. The idea of entrepreneurship is something which I want to talk about. And I feel that there is something in an entrepreneur which is probably an extra edge over others. So in earlier times when we were growing up, it was said that get a job in a bank or get a job in an engineering company or get a job as a doctor. So we were restricted to two or three options in those years of 80s and perhaps even 90s, that you do some engineering and you do medicine or you do chartered accountancy or whatever, and that's it. Today, the skies have opened up, the world has opened up, the sky is the limit, and so many new avenues are there. And I personally feel that being an entrepreneur is something which is a cut above everything else. So having served in the IAS, and today I'm a motivational speaker with, luckily with 3 million views, I have a lot of following on Instagram, LinkedIn, etc. I feel that I'm an entrepreneur. Plus, I have set up something called Vibrant Advisory Services and Vibrant Networking Forum, which allows people to get together, to network, to be successful, to be listening to each other and finding success through others. I'm also an author and a motivational speaker. As I said, this is my book, just to show you a glimpse. It's called Finding Success Within. So I will talk about what are the success mantras. And success mantras are basically, if you forget the pursuit of success, then success might come easily. Why do I say that? Basically, we have to keep on slogging. Every day has to be hard work. Every day has to be dedicated hard work, devoted hard work, diligent hard work. So that is the first mantra. We have to keep on keeping on. As Lehri Mahashay, who is the guru of Paramahansa Yogananda, he said, Banat Banat Banjai, which means keep on keeping on. Which means that we have to wake up every morning with the aim of making the best of the day. Now, what has an entrepreneur got to do with that? So let's say there are 3 factors involved for a startup. The first factor could be an idea. The second factor could be a risk-taking ability. And the third factor could be resources and backing of your family. Now, just to give you a little story, my uncle called me one day and he says his son, that's my cousin, he says this young boy, he wants to leave his job of 3 years, he's into his career and he wants to start up a company. So please tell him, Vivek, that he should not do that. He's got a good job in Bombay and he wants to come back to Karnal or Delhi, wherever they were, and he wants to start up online. So I spoke to the boy and he was very determined to start up a company. And I said, wow. Then I went back to my uncle. I said, why don't you allow him? He's so passionate. So the family sometimes has to be carefully and patiently engaged and told. In fact, this is something which I tell a lot of youngsters. Supposing you want to do something which is against your family's wishes. It's not against their wishes, but it is different from their wishes. You have to be patient with them. There is no point in creating a misunderstanding, running away, fighting with them, shouting at them, not being able to convince them. If you are able to convince, not able to convince your own family, how will you convince your clients and your business partners, etc., for a business deal? So get busy patiently trying to make peace with your family if they're not in favor of what you're doing, and try to convince them patiently. I often tell parents that parents who are older now, they have to be patient with their youngsters, but the youngsters also have to be patient with their parents. Parents are also human beings, and they have gone through trials and tribulations to bring up the boys and girls. They have to understand. The second point is the innovative, creative spirit. Now, this is something I would like to spend some time on. Einstein said intelligence having fun is creativity. And I'm going to tell you straight away the story of Einstein and his driver. Many people have heard of, everybody's heard of Albert Einstein. In fact, I got a joke the other day that when Frank got the experiment wrong, he became Einstein's cousin, that is Frankenstein. But that is on the lighter side. If you look at this inspiring story of the driver, Einstein was driving around with this driver in American universities from one town to another and delivering a lecture on the theory of relativity at every university town. So he spent 24 days doing the same. He would go to one town, deliver the lecture, and stay the night. Next morning, the driver will drive him to the next town. He will deliver the lecture, and they will stay and go next day to the next. Now, Albert Einstein obviously was brilliant. He would speak for 1 hour, 1.5 hours, and the driver would sit at the back in all the lectures. Now, everybody's heard of Einstein's success. Nobody heard of the driver. But what happened one day, after 24 towns, they are going to the 25th town, quiet road, driver is driving, Einstein is reading some papers at the back of the car, and suddenly the driver says, Mr. Einstein, I've heard your lecture 24 times, sitting at the back of the hall. I think even I can deliver this lecture now. Now Einstein is amazed, astounded, shocked, surprised. He says, how is this possible? The driver is going to deliver my lecture. But he is an innovator. He says, wonderful. You become Einstein, sit at the back. I become the driver. The next town is a very small town. I'm sure they don't know how I look. And those days were not the days of photographs. Arijit has made beautiful posters. Nobody could have made posters of digital or any kind at that time. So they went there and the driver was at the back. He was received with flowers by the dean of the university. They go inside, 100 people are watching or 200 people. Einstein goes and sits at the back of the hall like a driver. And the driver goes onto the stage pretending to be Einstein. He delivers a flawless lecture on the theory of relativity. Because he has heard it 24 times, he's intelligent, he has grasped it, he has delivered the lecture. Now at the end of the lecture, there is a thunderous applause and Einstein at the back is standing on his chair almost in excitement, clapping, clapping, clapping. But there is a venerable old professor in the front row. And we have all met venerable old professor. Even I am a visiting professor now, though not old yet, but I am a visiting professor. So the visiting professor or the senior professor in the front row, he gets up and says, Mr. Einstein, I have a question. Now this question is a very complicated question. Obviously, professors ask complicated questions. And the driver looks at him and he knows that he doesn't know the answer. He says, Professor, this is a very simple question. Even my driver sitting at the last row can answer this question. So you see how the driver turns the tables on fate, on the professor, on whatever is happening. And Einstein, of course, is the driver. He knows the answer of the question. The point is that this driver has some qualities which we all need to succeed in anything in life. What is the first quality? The first quality is confidence. Because he says to Einstein, I will deliver the lecture. Nobody can say that to Einstein. Secondly, he is intelligent. He has grasped this over 24 times. He has written down notes. He has memorized it. Whatever he has done, he is not a science physics student. He is not a speaker. The third quality, public oratory skills. Now, I am a public speaker. I speak every day. I can speak for 10 hours or 1 hour or 30 minutes. It doesn't matter. The point is that the driver could speak and he picked up those skills suddenly or whenever. Fourthly, when he is on the stage, he's calm. His calmness is the key. That calmness, he could easily have been ruffled. Suddenly he's on the stage. Suddenly he's supposed to act like Einstein and deliver a lecture. And at the end of the lecture, when the professor asks the question, Anybody could have been disturbed by that, any human being. But he finds the presence of mind, which is the best quality, presence of mind, to say that my driver will answer this question. Now, if we can have that calmness and presence of mind, I was reading a quote by Thich Nhat Hanh, the great spiritual guru. He says, when you are drinking a cup of tea, think that this cup of tea is the whole world at that time. Don't be scattered in your thoughts. Give focus to that tea. And dietitians and doctors will tell you, when you are eating or drinking, focus on the food. What are we doing? We have our smartphone, we have our TV, we have our conversation. Of course, conversation is great. I would say the best thing you can do apart from eating is to talk to people who matter. Of course, parents said don't talk with your mouth full, but now whenever you can talk, you talk. The point is, you live in the present moment. You live in that moment, you focus on the moment. When does success come? It comes from applying your present moment knowledge. We are not to live in the future all the time. I will do this. If you say that I will be happy in 2024, that is my destination, I will have a car, I will have a house, I will be happy there. That is foolhardy. Today is the day. Now is the moment. The journey is what you have to enjoy. 2024 is unpredictable. 2020 was the most unpredictable. Now, what do you know about 2024? You have to work according to the moment. So we have to find calmness and creativity. Now, creativity is excellence. Creativity is outstanding. A person who plays the guitar, I'm a great admirer of anybody who can play the guitar, or anybody who can sing, or anybody who can paint, or anybody who can dance, or play badminton, or anything which is different from the norm. Everybody goes to school and studies and gets 70, 80, 90, 99% marks. No big deal, I would say. It's no big deal. Everybody is getting some marks. But if you are doing something distinct in your work or in your life, then you are making a mark. So my quote in this book is, life is not about marks, life is about making a mark. Marks are important, but you have to make a mark. That means write a book, become a stage performer, do an experiment which nobody did, work for an NGO which helps poor people. Mother Teresa came to Kolkata when nothing was there in Kolkata. A Western woman. There's no place to go to the toilet even. I mean, of course, it was, Kolkata was one of the best cities in India, still is. But the point is, India was a very poor country. And she worked in the slums. She was known as the saint of the gutters. Now, we being creative, we don't even have to go that far. We only have to make the best of what we have. So my mantra is that I make the best of each day, each moment. Somebody asks me, how do you do so many things in one day or in one life? I say, I prioritize. So I will not spend 3.5 hours at that wedding or that party. I will come back in 45 minutes, 1 hour. Why? Because I had to go. I met everybody, but no point in spending extra time there. And okay, if you're enjoying, it's okay. But zabardasti, just to be compelled to be in a function and do all these things, social lives can be minimized. Secondly, who said you have to answer all the WhatsApps or all the forwards and all the things? You have to rationalize and ration your social media time. See, I'm a writer also. If I am a writer, if I write a fortnightly column and 3 or 4 books, then I have to take out time for that. I had to take out time for that. Nobody told me, the doctor didn't tell me you have to write. It is some creative pursuit which inspires. And I have to take out time from those 24 hours. I cannot take out time from anywhere else. If I sleep enough, if I eat enough properly, if I exercise enough, if I meditate also, that is a balanced life. I leave enough time for myself to work, to be creative. So creativity is intelligence having fun. We have to have that fun in our lives. Use the right side of our brains. So I have 8 TEDx talks, by the way. One of them is on this very point, how to live a more creative life. And one of them is on living a simple but superb life. Simplicity means we declutter. Now, Arijit is going to tell me it's almost time, but I'll just talk a little bit about simplifying and decluttering. You see, decluttering, what do we have to declutter? We have to declutter our surroundings, physical. If you have a book which you could not read for 20 years, you're not like to read it in the 21st year. But books are still good. There may be a piece of some gadget in your house or some article which you never will use. We need to give away, remove those from our lives. Declutter your house, your room, and what will happen? Your mind will be decluttered. If your mind is decluttered, then solutions come easily, answers come easily, stresses go away. And meditation is something which I would urge all CEOs, all CXOs, all entrepreneurs to do. I have found by meditating in the last 12 years that my calmness levels have gone up, my anger levels have gone down, my irritation levels have gone down, my creativity has gone up. Meditation helps me to find peace within, helps me to find my true self. And then if you lose your temper once in a while, it's okay. If you get irritated once in a while, you are human. We are human, but not all the time. We cannot be known as a cynic or a complainant or a negative person. Unfortunately, there are people who have retired or not even retired. Every day they write one complaint. Email to the electricity board, to the municipal corporation, to the so-and-so, to the Prime Minister of India, copy to the Patwari and the Kanango and the whoever. There is no point in being a complainant. Once in a lifetime, you may have some genuine grievance against somebody. You wrote a letter or complaint, it's okay. But why become a habitual complainant? Why become a cynic? Everything cannot be wrong. So I'll tell you a little story about the train ride I used to have from Chandigarh. I live in to Delhi, very often going by train, Shatabdi Express. Every time in that 70 people in that coach, there will be one person who is shouting loudest on the phone, who is negative and who is cynical. This is not okay, that is not okay. He will call the waiter. Different person every time, but one will be there out of 70. Call the waiter, call the manager. This food is not okay. This is not okay. Call your complaint, get your complaint book. Why is this, that? And then he will shout at his wife. He will shout at his juniors on the phone. He will only be very, very sweet when the boss is calling. So the boss is the only one he will be sweet to. In fact, in my book, Finding Success Within, I have a chapter, Handling Difficult Bosses. Handling difficult bosses and handling difficult relationships is also part of the game. We cannot control our people around us. So the saint said, don't try to change others, change yourself. You change yourself and you become the example for others. We cannot tell people, do this, do this, do this. If we become the role model and the example, then people will be inspired to do what we say we should do. One last tip I'll have for parents and youngsters again. It is very important that we de-stress rather than stressing each other out. It's very important in relationships. Patience and understanding must not go away. You see, people say that falling in love. So I was hearing a saint talking about falling in love. He said maximum that effect of falling in love stays for 1 to 2 years. You fall in love with somebody, you fall out of love after 1 or 2 years. We are human. But can the understanding and patience be there? Yes. You get married not for 1 or 2 years, you have got married for life. So if we can maintain at least that bonding, friendship, understanding, when those starry eyes are gone, when the honeymoon is over, when that spark of love is, reduced, because we are human. Even if you have got married to Brad Pitt or Kathleen Zeta-Jones, it doesn't matter. Basically, they will also fade away in a while. And you have a startup where you're very excited. Infosys was founded by Murthy and others. So Murthy said, I call him Murthy, I've met him a few times. And Mr. Murthy said, we have to keep on, we cannot fade away. But that excitement has to somehow be contained into energy which goes on forever. So the spark is something which lights the fire, and then the fire has to be maintained with effort. You have to maintain that fire. So these are my success mantras to share. I'm happy to be here, and I think it is a great initiative to get together. Today in Chandigarh, it's cold. We have a cloudy, foggy morning, and I'm sure in other parts of India it might be sunny. Arijit seems to have a lot of sun in his room. So it's great to see all of you, and all the best for this event. I'm very proud and happy to be associated. My best wishes. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So for your information, we actually have audience from various parts of the world. I'll give you the number of countries we have. We have at the moment around 21 countries who are watching us live, and we have a couple of countries over here. I can tell them by name. We know each other just because of this summit. Australia, I can see you guys. Malaysia, thank you so much for joining. Zimbabwe, thank you so much for joining. Canada, thank you so much. I mean, it's been a pleasure. And of course, how can I forget our friends from various parts of Asia, China, Japan, Taiwan. Thank you so much for joining. Vietnam, you have been a huge support. Thank you so much. I can see few of the questions. I can go on with country names. Please excuse me. We are, I'm very strict about timing, and that's the way we are following it since morning and since last couple of days. So I'll ask you a specific question because it's specifically to you, sir. Shweta, she's asking, she's from India. Her name is Shweta Kumari, and my question to you is, please tell us your opinion about adding ethics and morality as a subject from the very beginning, which is primary school. Don't you think that it will help in removing the hatred among the people? We know India is a diverse and spectacular country. People often learn from surrounding and their parents. That is why hatred also passes generation to generation. What can be the remedy, the cure to be united? Don't you think putting ethics and morality from standard 3 will help?
I think it's a very good question. I'm very pleased to have this question. I can see it also on the chat. Thank you very much. I think that there is a lot to be said about the moral values to be inculcated in the beginning. You see, firstly at home, parents are the role models. If the parent is talking to somebody on the phone and saying, or you say that, tell them I'm not at home. In earlier times, you could do that. But that is something where the children learn these things. If the parent is crossing the red light every time, and then he tells the 18-year-old, now you have got your driving license, please don't cross the red light. So how will that child feel? So moral values come from the parents first. Secondly, they must be part of the education system. You're absolutely right. We used to have something called moral science when we were in school. I'm sure many of you had it. There is also something called value education. I have been director of school education, and I speak a lot to schools and colleges and university teachers as well as students almost every day. But the point is that we need to focus on that. Public discourse in India has deteriorated because nobody told these people that you have to be dignified in your conduct and behavior. Even if you are disagreeing with someone, you have to agree to disagree. You have to be civil. Even the most powerful man in the world doesn't know how to speak. He doesn't speak in a civilized way. So there is so many things that we have to teach people across the world. They have to be patient and tolerant. And yes, if the teachers start exemplifying that, then we can definitely reduce hatred. Because that hatred, as you have said, passes from generation to generation. If we find our parents and elders, if children find them to be very, very negative, very, very complaining or criticizing others, as I said, they will also adopt the same. So we have to be role models and examples. One United, you said that don't you think putting ethics and morally from standard 3 will help? I would say standard 1 also. You see, standard 1, when children come into school, they are absolutely able to understand what is right and wrong. In fact, in schools nowadays, there are even told things like good touch and bad touch, which so that nobody molests them or handles them badly. So if they can understand that, they can definitely understand stories related to moral values. You remember the Panchtantra comics? We used to read them. So many good ideas and suggestions and moral values used to come in India from those stories. Across the world, we have fables and stories. People from so many countries are watching. I would say that you can definitely find moral values to be a priority in the education system. And then the example of leadership. If leadership in a country or in any country is such that we feel almost, we despise the way they are, then that means who has thrown them up? We have thrown them up. We say the police is not behaving in a dignified manner. Where have they come from? They've come from our society. So you're absolutely right. We need to correct the educational system, and we need to bring in these values from the beginning.
Super. A great answer. I have one last question for you, and then I will move back to the industry questions which is being asked. And we actually crossed, what I'm going to do, we actually crossed 120, approximate 120 questions in social media for all the other panelists as well. What we are going to do, we are going to collect those questions and then probably mail it to all the respected speakers. We can't take 120 questions. It's really impossible for us. But thank you for all the support. To be very, very honest, it was a specific, very specific for us that we shouldn't fill up the Zoom room with people who are not interactive. So we filtered out so many things, to be very, very honest. Vivek sir, you can see the question in Q&A box. Meanwhile, let me tell you the kind of audience we are getting. We are mainly getting the industry people who have specific industry-oriented knowledge base, who wants to explore, understand, and shake hands. So World Leader Summit is not at all an event. It's not at all a kind of summit that we're doing. It's a platform for people, by the entrepreneurs, by the leaders, and for the leaders, for the entrepreneurs, wherein people can handhold with each other, grow, and work out for a betterment of the world. I firmly believe that this is not the right time to compete with each other, rather collaborate, handshake, and grow. And that is how our world can become beautiful. So the next question for you, sir, is what do you think about social values and digital ethics, especially on the digital platforms?
I saw the question from Ankit Khandelwal, and it's a good question. I have been director of IT in government, and I was working on these things, cyber laws, etc., also a little bit. But the point is that the digital medium is the new way to communicate. And we have to represent the same moral values and social values online as we do offline. Digital ethics is an extremely important subject. When it is the way we communicate, then there the ethics cannot be different online and in social media than in real life. So we have to see who is harming the social fabric of our country by transgressing these social values. So what is happening in a case like, let's say, Dhoni? They lost, Chennai Super Kings lost badly in the IPL. So there were threats against his family. And one or two people on social media played it up. And then the TV channels play it up. And then everybody plays it up. So then where are the ethics? Basically, one person's acerbic or negative kind of comment has been played up and the whole country's mood has been vitiated. So our endeavor should be to minimize the negativity, and by not sharing things which are negative and trolling types. Secondly, anybody who is unethical on digital media, on social media, for example, somebody is interacting or chatting with kids, and there are so many things that are happening in that guise. These are very, very unethical and illegal activities. There has to be a monitor, and companies such as Facebook and Instagram, which is the same company, and Twitter, they have to basically monitor these things a little more carefully. And society has to train the children before they come into the age of interacting on social media. They have to be prepared that this is right and this is wrong, and they have to know that.
Super answer. I'll give you a small brief about our Sindhu culture and why we have such kind of sculptures and murtis and pictures. Why we worship those many number of gods and goddess. Well, if you look at God and Goddess, we usually worship three different things in life. It is actually for any culture, any religion, which is creation, protection, and destruction. That's the cycle. So if you don't understand this cycle, you don't understand our gods like Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwar. So Brahma is the symbol of creation, Vishnu is a symbol of protection, and Shiva is a symbol of destruction. When you look at, that is the reason why I'm actually trying to explain it. When you look at the picture of Vishnu, who is lying on the top of a snake with 5 different faces of that snake called Sheshnag, and he's lying, he's just relaxing, and his eyes are half open. And the goddess of Lakshmi, She is worshipping God, Lord Vishnu. And the lotus came out from his nozzle, and Brahma is sitting on the top of that. People feel that this is just a picture, it's just a crazy picture Indian people made some, couple of thousands of years back, and they worship something which is really, we don't understand. For you guys who are from not from our culture, this picture, this sea, is the symbol of samsara, which is our world. In world, there will be ups and downs. If a person can become calm, can ignore all those kind of odd things that's coming up towards him, and can be very focused, he's showing to the world that he is actually relaxing, and he can actually relax with all those ups and downs, but be very, very focused. That person don't need to run for money. Money will come to him. That person don't have to think what kind of creations he can make. He will be the creator. And as you know, nozzle, you cannot destroy that. If you burn a body, it's not destroyed. It still remains. So it's so rich that you need to understand why it is so rich. The 5 symbol of those snake is Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, and Matcharya. I can go on. The reason I'm taking this quote because Mr. Vivek is talking about meditation. And it's true. If you actually meditate, you can be like water. Try to be like water. Take shapes, become smellless, become colorless. Then you will see the beauty of life. And why we are talking in such holy approach of life in a technical session, in a VR, AR, and extended reality session. In older days, probably people have thought about that you can probably do time travel. Now we are talking about time travel. We are showing that how time travel can be predicted using latest generation technology. Ashish ji talked about how the ecosystem and how the new tech, how the adoption of cartoons and animations are happening in various parts of Asia and Western countries. Vineet was talking about mainly how our rich cultured storylines can be adopted and talked in a storyline manner. Pradeep was talking about what is the enhancement happening in VR and AR. Todd was talking about the latest hardware technologies that is there in the world. If you accumulate all these, you will understand that life is actually beautiful. You just need to upgrade and uplift yourself. You need to find out a way so that you can throw away those negative elements in life. And that's one of the reasons, that's another reason why Shivji got a snake in his neck. Snake can actually release their own body part away. It's called Kechuli in Hindi. I can go on with various explanation, but that shows us you should become dynamic. Throw away the negative parts from your life. Have venom in your brain, but that shouldn't kill you. Okay? Hibernate. Come back to the world. So this is the ethics. And with this note, I've got a very interesting question directly for Ashish ji. Ashish ji, if you're there with us, I think he's okay. He's probably not there. Okay, let me pull the another question. This is for Vineet. Vineet, if you're there online, and Avi, it's a question. It's an interesting one. Vineet, are you there? Can we have you back?
Yes, I'm there.
Super. So this question is from South Korea.
Oh, cool.
By Kim. He is asking, we can see Final Fantasy as one of the finest content in the world, which started probably from Japan, but when can we see a content like Final Fantasy with so enriched culture that you guys have in India, and we can enjoy that? So after
I'm sure
probably Ovi can answer this. Yeah.
Sure. I'm very happy to address this. In fact, I spoke at Konkuk University about film stories pretty recently in Konkuk University, Seoul. And we were discussing on similar lines on how every country has different stories. So, in fact, South Korea was very good with Parasite as it came out with a good story. Now, Parasite is not like Final Fantasy. So I just want to come to the point that the story will be unique to India when it comes out. It won't be like Final Fantasy, but it will be something very, very different, and it will address the world. That's what I can assure. And I will also assure that we all are working towards Indian stories becoming global. We are very strongly working. So within the next 5 years, I think you will get good stories out of India which address the world. We will have a pipeline which it will not be once in a lifetime kind of a story. It will be a continuous thing. So Indian stories are now getting into shape, and with the advent of OTT, in fact, if they can access the Indian OTT content, they'll see some wonderful stories being told. So I'm sure they are also accessible in Korea and worldwide. So soon we'll have great stories. It's not about Bahubali. Of course, Bahubali also went into a space that earlier stories did not go into it. But we'll go much beyond that very soon.
Super. Ovi, if you want to comment on the same, then I will move to Mr. Pradeep for the last question, and probably then we can end the session. Yeah, Ovi.
Yeah, Rijita, I totally agree with Mr. Vineet's comment, and totally we can see there are so many games from India coming. So we are progressing in the game industry for sure. Raji this year has made the entry. Raji is a fantastic game. There are games like Yodha and Asura from Ogre Head Studio, which are making India proud. Mr. Arijit already did so many games like Ashwadhama, Shaktiman, which are making Indian stories in limelight. So I think definitely we'll see the budget is one problem in Indian gaming industry, but I think we are overcoming, and there is so much boom in OTT platform and entertainment sector that I'm really assured that in some years we'll see that boom from India.
Super, super. So there is a question, I think, Pradeep, if you can take this question. What do you think about gamification, integrating industries, hybrid ecosystem, real world?
Well, look, in my mind, when you look at end of the day, what is gamification? You know, it is an engagement activity. It is looking at different outcomes and under different scenarios. So it has a role to play. There is a definite market for that. I don't see anything, I see great, or, I see great opportunities for blending that in industries, which is actually happening at the moment in terms of education, in terms of health, and so on and so forth. And just for your record, do you know which country has the highest market share in gaming arcades? And this is for the audience. And there is a virtual bottle of wine which is available as a prize for this. So look, considering that people may not be able to answer right now, so I'll tell you, it is China. China has 65% of the gaming arcade market in the world, with revenues of around $800 million. That was just as an aside, but to answer your question, as I said, it has a role to play, especially in education and training.
Super. So we have actually blasted with questions, but we already overshoot the time for today. So this is 11 now. We are supposed to end by 11. But yes, we'll be back soon today evening, 4 o'clock, sharp Indian time, with publishers from Ukraine and AR company founder, which is world's one of the top-notch company from, again, Ukraine, and two great souls, great guys who are doing amazing stuff in gaming and gamification and music from Iceland. Then we'll have an interesting panel with the doctors who will be sharing us a lot of information, lot of inputs, how they are battling with COVID-19, and a couple of them are the scientists who are giving inputs, doing stuff to create the vaccine for COVID. We'll be more than happy and delighted to give industry awards in the evening after the panel. We have more than 12 industry awards and 4 to 5 startup awards to give away. And for all the audience, let me tell you, we are heavily supported by Presidential Award of USA, and I'm blessed that the CEO is supporting us with all his power and credentials. We'll be more than happy to add values to the ecosystem. WLS, the platform is your platform. World Leader Summit is yours. Just feel free to get in touch with us, shoot us questions, ask us questions. If it is not answered in these panels, don't worry, our speakers will answer this after the summit. So we'll do a lot of things after summit. It's not the end, it's just the beginning of new era, hand-holding and grow in 2021. So for the audience, World Leader Summit is happening from 7th of December to 16th of December. I'm blessed by a few of the friends who actually helped to give it a shape from the very beginning. Jatin, thank you so much. You have been of great support. I'm really glad that the kind of design that has been done from a Roxcoat based company. Thank you so much, Vittal. Thank you so much, Avik from India, who created the portal for World Leader Summit. Thank you so much, all the ecosystem players, Anning Gaming, Gifted Knowledge, H Metals, Glam World Face, Avenue Global, Animation Reviews, Iowa Industries, Virtual Infocom, Supreme Corp, VGD, Cybersecurity Gigs, I Am Superhero, Yoga Training for You, My Films, Sports Zone In, Squash Code, Cosplay Seller, Second Life Tech, Sexo Designs, Entrepreneur Face, BizTech. BizTech is a great platform for B2B, Extended Reality Developers of India, iLead, TechSauce, Billion Divas, Vadvani Foundation, IBM TV, HD Africa, Adamas University, and Africa Digital. We are live, things are happening. Magic can happen in World Leader Summit. Thank you so much, guys. See you soon. Sayonara. Cheers.